Y'all hear about what this former WNBA player said about LeBron James? This was 3 years ago when she said this too. With all the stuff going on nowadays, with all these speculation allegations, I don't know.
Okay, let's make this one quick. People are wondering why Drake dissed LeBron. Well, actually, he didn't. He more so expressed his feelings at LeBron.
I'm back, boy, FITTI to the E, and today we're going to be taking a look at these creepy TikTok videos. I know I haven't posted in a little bit. I've been traveling and dealing with some family issues. You know how it is sometimes. Like, you just got to take a break off. It says that 75% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to subscribe. It's 2025, so happy New Year's to you guys. We're already like 9 days in and a lot of crazy stuff have been happening. I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna take a look at that in this video today, so make sure to watch till the end. Yeah, I actually have some friends in Cali and they'll be telling me it looks like a complete apocalypse down there. Like, that should be so scary. If you're in California, let me know your situation. Hopefully you're safe, and let me know how it is down there.
Small Santa Claus was also Toronto's scariest serial killer. 67-year-old Bruce McArthur murdered 8 men in downtown Toronto from 2010 to 2018. He was previously married with a woman and had 2 children with her, but little did they know about his double life. Many people who knew Bruce described him as sweet and outgoing, and they never imagined he would do something like this. In 2010, gay men in Toronto began going missing, and unfortunately, after some time, their cases stopped getting so much attention. Bruce first met these men on dating apps, and when he met them in person, he took their lives. He targeted marginalized men, which in this case were gay men of color. He strangled them and then dismembered their bodies and then put their body parts in planters. Bruce even took photos of his victims when they were alive and then deceased. This is one of his victims who got away after almost being murdered by Bruce. In 2018, police began discovering dismembered body parts of some of the 8 missing men on the property of one of Bruce's clients who hired him as a landscaper. And finally, in 2019, Bruce pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison.
Here are some amazing facts that you didn't know. Created in Germany, ESS Lack is the world's first fully edible spray paint. It comes in blue, silver, red, and gold. Don't tell me you don't want to eat a gold chicken. In order to save workers' time during the construction of the World Trade Center, a mobile Subway restaurant was installed for their lunches that moved up the building as they completed each floor. This incredible sculpture is by artist Zenos Frodakis and is located in Philadelphia in the United States. It's called Freedom. This is Emmanuel Joseph Bishop. He has Down syndrome, and from the age of just 15, he's been able to speak English, French, Latin, and Spanish, fluently plays the violin, and has 6 junior Down syndrome world records. In 2011, archaeologists discovered at the site of the old World Trade Centers in New York City half of an 18th century ship that was once believed to be used by merchants.
This is the story of the worst shark attack in human history. On July 16, 1945, the USS Indianapolis was on a secret mission to bring parts and machinery to help construct the atomic bombs. These bombs, of course, would end the Second World War just a month later. The ship was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and en route to a couple of islands off the coast of Asia. And on board the ship was over 1,100 US Navy soldiers. However, on the night of the 16th, a Japanese submarine launched a torpedo which struck the USS Indianapolis. And within just 12 minutes, the entire ship was completely sunken underwater. And about 300 out of the 1,100 men on board couldn't escape the ship in time. And the other 900 or so men were stranded floating in the middle of the ocean. And within a few minutes, it became apparent to the soldiers that there were hundreds of hungry sharks right below them. Screams began to be heard coming from almost every direction in the pitch black darkness. And hundreds of soldiers began to be picked off one by one. When it was all said and done, only 317 men survived the disaster, meaning that close to 600 men were killed by sharks that night.
They've been saying for the longest, though, that sharks don't really like eating humans. Like, I've heard that we get mistaken for seals. That's why they eat us. But, like, at the same time, if they just ate 600 people, wouldn't you think like after the first one they'd be like, nah, I don't like this. You know what I'm saying?
This is the horrific result of inbreeding. Born in 1661, King Charles II of Spain was the product of 200 years of incest that intended to strengthen the family line. He was breastfed until the age of 4 and never fully learned how to walk. Before reaching the age of 6, Charles miraculously survived a series of diseases, including chickenpox, measles, rubella, and smallpox. As an adult, he was completely illiterate and could barely chew or speak due to his deformed jaw and enlarged tongue. He was so ugly and disfigured that his own wife was terrified of him. Renowned historians Will and Ariel Durant vividly described him as short, lame, epileptic, senile, and completely bald before 35. Always on the verge of death, but completely baffling Christendom by continuing to live. His autopsy report revealed disturbing findings, stating that his heart was the size of a peppercorn, his lungs corroded, his intestines gangrenous and rotten. He had a single testicle black as coal, and his head was full of water.
Life advice that could save your life one day. If you're ever falling towards water in a car, open your windows immediately. If you don't, the water pressure will make it impossible to escape. If you're alone at night and you're in a shady area, pretend to call someone and make sure to mention a time of arrival and destination. You can still make an emergency call on your phone even if you have no credit or bars of reception on your network. Your phone will use any surrounding network. Never leave ice packs on wounds or swelling for more than 15 minutes. This could cause irreversible nerve damage. And if a service dog comes up to you seeming to want attention, immediately follow them and locate their owner. The dog could be using you as a last resort to get help.
I feel like if you fell off a bridge though with the car and it did end up landing in the water, I don't necessarily think you would survive that, right? Because of the surface tension. Wouldn't the car like kind of just explode on itself, or not explode, but like implode? Wouldn't the car kind of just like crush you as it hits the water, or would you just sink it? I'm not sure. I guess it depends on how high the bridge is.
Bro, what is even happening this year? Donald Trump is now reportedly working on a deal to buy Greenland. Yeah, purchase a country. And what's crazier is that America has actually tried to buy Greenland before. I mean, at the start, we all thought that Trump was joking, but now he is sending his son, along with other various representatives, to travel there today. Trump even posted last night saying, Greenland is an incredible place and the people will benefit tremendously if and when it becomes part of our nation. Bro said when. Now, while Greenland has its own government, it still remains under the Kingdom of Denmark. And in 1946, the US offered Denmark 100 million for the resource-rich island, but were swiftly rejected. And I think it's also important to note that Greenland cannot simply be purchased like real estate. Its population, although only 56,000, have the right to self-determination under international law, meaning they must consent to any major changes. But if enough people in Greenland want to be purchased by the US, who knows? Maybe a 51st state is possible. So the question is, do you think that America should buy Greenland or stay away?
Apparently Trump wants to buy Canada as well. If you're from Canada, what do you think about that? Would you want to join the United States? Like, I'm not too sure what the Canada situation is, but like I do know that Trump said that he wanted to get Canada as get Canada part of the United States. If you're from Canada, let me know what you think about that. But all I know is that if it does happen, the first day it happens, I'm there.
2 alien bodies were presented to the Mexican Congress yesterday by a so-called UFO expert. They were supposedly found in Peru and said to be over 1,000 years old. Now, the guy who found these alien bodies said that he didn't get them from a UFO crash. No. You see, he found them fossilized in an algae mine. And after running some tests, it was found that their DNA was over 30% unknown, meaning that they're also not products of evolution. Now, we just have to take a step back here for a second, because this guy who's presenting these aliens also presented some aliens back in 2015. But you see, those aliens he claimed he found back in 2015 actually turned out to be just deformed human children. But now he's saying that he's really got it and that these are the real aliens. But I also don't think that when humans finally find aliens that they're gonna look exactly like they do in the movies. It would just be too perfect. I think aliens are gonna end up looking something like this. And for reference, this creature actually does exist in our oceans. And I'm honestly more scared of what's lurking down there than what's lurking out in space, real or not.
5 arrests have been made in the death of actor Matthew Perry, including 2 doctors, his assistant, and the ketamine queen. Perry revealed his decades-long struggle with addiction in his 2022 memoir, Friends, Lover, and the Big Terrible Thing. and how he was prescribed Vicodin after a jet ski accident on a film set in 1997. Eventually, Perry was taking up to 55 pills per day. In 2023, Perry was receiving ketamine infusions for anxiety and depression, but soon slipped back into his addiction and started getting it illegally as well. And that's when 2 medical doctors started providing him the drug off the record. One of the doctors that's been arrested wrote, quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay, and let's find out." For a vial that cost them $12, they were charging Perry thousands of dollars. Perry eventually sought out a new source because of these expenses, one of them being Jasveen Sangha, known as the Ketamine Queen, who's also been charged in connection with another man's overdose back in 2019. On October 23rd of last year, Perry was found face down in his hot tub. He died as a result of acute effects of ketamine and drowning. Shortly after this, the defendants tried to cover up their involvement by deleting text messages and apparently forging medical records. Authorities say the Ketamine Queen sold the drug to Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, who injected Perry the day he died, and the syringe was provided by Dr. P, who sold drugs to Perry in the past. 2 defendants, including Perry's assistant, have pleaded guilty to charges already, and a third has agreed to plead guilty. Dr. P and the Ketamine Queen could face life in prison.
This is proof that we aren't alone. Up first, in the movie Moana, we all remember this clip, right? Never thought anything of it, right? That is until you notice there is a mountain on Earth that looks exactly like that one in the movie. You can see the legs, the shoulder, and the head. And it raises the question, was there giants roaming Earth? And if so, did they base this movie off of it?
She stabbed her boyfriend in the eye with needles because he was looking at other women. So this happened in Florida, where 44-year-old Sandra Jimenez lost it after her and her boyfriend of 8 years were arguing about him looking at other women. But on this specific Saturday night, when the couple arrived home, Sandra attacked him when he went to lay down. She allegedly jumped on top of him with 2 syringes in her hand and jabbed him in the eye. And apparently these needles were meant to vaccinate their dogs against rabies. Sandra was then found sleeping in her car and was arrested and charged with felony aggravated battery. Can we start normalizing breaking up with our partners instead of trying to kill them?
Not gonna lie, I thought it already was the normal. I don't know like where they got this other thing from, but like usually when you're done, you're done. You know what I'm saying? You don't take them out.
These are the 3 worst jails on Earth. At number 3, we have the Scorpion Jail in Egypt. It's located in the middle of the desert, so it's boiling hot all year round. All jail cells are extremely small, and you're in there all by yourself. There's literally no bed or nothing. They also have a coffin jail there where they put you in a coffin and nail you shut and wait to die. At number 2, the Bangkok Hilton. You first get thrown into a cell with around 20 people, with no beds and just a bucket in the middle of the room for a toilet. And this place is so corrupt that it's either run by the prison guards who are evil or the inmates who are also evil. At number 1, we have the Black Dolphin Jail in Russia. It's out in the middle of nowhere, so there's no chance of survival if you escape. And everywhere you go, you're blindfolded, so you have no idea where you're going. The jails also have 3 layers of bars, so it's impossible to get out. And the guards here are extremely violent and harsh. And if you do anything wrong, they will most likely kill you.
I have been gone 1 week, and the shit between Russia and NATO has got so bad that the first thing I see when I get back is Kim saying, "Never before has the threat of nuclear war been greater." Nice. I am only finding out today that after months of refusing, Joe Biden actually gave Ukraine permission to use US and UK supplied long-range missiles to strike targets inside Russia. Hearing this, Putin was freaking pissed, so he not only changed Russia's nuclear doctrine to essentially use nuclear weapons for less, but he also unveiled a brand new type of missile. Oh, and then he used that to strike a city in Ukraine, triggering explosions that went on for 3 hours. And if that wasn't enough, a French media outlet reported that the UK and France have been discussing doing a North Korea and then deploying troops to Ukraine. However, the UK's foreign secretary has since denied these claims. The head of NATO's military committee urged businesses to prepare for a wartime scenario and even discussed the possibility of preemptive strikes against targets in Russia, keeping in mind that NATO is strictly a defensive alliance. Oh, and just to top it all off, the New York Times even reported that some unidentified Western officials had suggested that Joe Biden could give Ukraine nuclear weapons. It's good to be back.
Dirty facts about history that they'll never teach you in school, Part 10. During Bill Clinton's sexual affair with Monica Lewinsky, she inhaled his front tail several times while he was talking on the phone with a member of Congress. On one occasion, the president inserted a cigar up Lewinsky's sniz, then put the cigar in his mouth and told her he liked it. During another encounter, Lewinsky was performing on Clinton before his erectoplasm got all over her blue dress. She kept the stained dress as an insurance policy, and it was later used as key evidence against Clinton. During World War I, French prostitutes with severe cases of syphilis charged higher rates than uninfected prostitutes. This was because soldiers infected with syphilis would be removed from the front line. In the 1950s, the KGB tried to blackmail the president of Indonesia by getting him to come to Moscow, where a bunch of women persuaded him to have intercourse with them. When the KGB showed him the footage, the president asked for extra copies, saying the Indonesian people would be proud.
This is how much of different foods you need to eat to kill you, part 2. Up first, if you drink 14 bottles of water in one sitting, you will die because your kidneys cannot process it. But I don't imagine anybody being that thirsty. Next up, if you're a fan of cherries, you would have to eat 3 cherry seeds in one sitting to die. This is because they contain cyanide. Finally, you would have to eat 24 bottles of toothpaste to die. Now, I recommend that nobody tries this, and I'm sure that nobody will, but the more you know, the better.
If you're going to be in Paris this month, you might want to avoid this guy, especially if you're around 12 years old. In 2014, Steven van de Velde was a rising star in the Netherlands for beach volleyball, but like a judge put it, he also had a dark side. At some point, he starts messaging a 12-year-old girl on Facebook and continued to groom her via Snapchat and Skype. In August of that year, after 3 to 4 months of chatting, he traveled to England to meet her. Keep in mind, Steven is 19 years old at this time, and he knew this girl was 12. When the girl's mother was out of the house, Steven supplied her with alcohol before R-wording her several times, and he did this again at a lake nearby. The next day, he flies back home, probably assuming he's going to get away with it. But in January 2016, he was extradited back to the UK and arrested. 2 months later, he pleads guilty to 3 counts of R-wording a minor. The victim ended up making a statement in court about how this traumatic experience affected her, saying that she had at times harmed herself and even survived an OD. A UK judge sentenced him to 4 years in prison and basically said his dreams of performing at the Olympics were crushed. But unfortunately, he was wrong. His conviction was substituted for Dutch law, which was basically way less, and he only served 1 year in prison. In his first interview talking about the crime in 2018, he said that he was a lost teenager still figuring things out. Apparently, Steven has shown no remorse, and the people around him don't seem to care at all. He's currently married with a young child and bound for the 2024 Olympics.
Dude, that's wild. That's got to be one of the luckiest dudes of all time. Not only did his sentence get reduced from 4 years, which is still not even a lot, to 1 year, his dream did come true. He actually did go on to the Olympics, so that's crazy. He's got to be one of the luckiest people of all time.
Scientists are planning to bring back these prehistoric animals. Recently, a company based in Dallas, Texas by the name of Colossal Biosciences announced that they've raised over $150 million to bring back these 2 extinct animals. The company specializes in bioscience and genetics, and they believe that within the next 5 years, they'll be able to bring back the woolly mammoth, along with the dodo bird, which has been extinct for a few hundred years. The company claims that through using the DNA found in frozen woolly mammoths that died thousands and thousands of years ago, they'll be able to fuse it with the DNA of a modern-day Asian elephant to create a living woolly mammoth. They're claiming that we could be seeing living and breathing woolly mammoths within the next 4 years. The company is planning to use this technology to bring back animals that go extinct in the future, but many people believe that they shouldn't be messing with nature. What do you guys think?
In my head, it's like, what do we get from bringing them back? You know what I'm saying? They're already gone. It's not like anything crazy is going to happen if they come back.
Look at what just happened in Saudi Arabia's Riyadh airport. There was a flight to China that was delayed. I mean, delays are pretty common in airports. So a big crowd of Chinese people started to protest. But not only that, the things they were chanting got people very, very confused. You know, People these days protest for the dumbest reasons.
Crocodiles are pretending to drown to prey on humans. Spreading this could end up saving someone's life. Some crocodiles in Indonesia have been recorded acting very odd in the scariest way possible. You see, what these crocs are doing is they are going on their back and putting just their hands above the water, and they're flailing their hands in a way that mimics the way a human would look while drowning. Now, if you saw this from afar, it would probably look exactly like a human hand in the water, and it's believed that that is exactly what the crocs are trying to get you to think. Now, the crocodiles acting this way has some very scary implications. I mean, for them to learn to act like this, they would have had to observe someone drowning from afar. Or maybe they saw it while they were dragging someone under, which is a scarier implication. But the scariest implication, in my opinion, is that they know that this will attract other humans to come and rescue the person. Meaning that they had to not only see someone drown, but also see someone come over to save that person that is drowning. So if these crocs start getting smart enough, they might start using real drowning people as bait, so they can get a 2-for-1 meal when someone inevitably comes to save them.
I'm not gonna lie, who thought crocs were that smart? I did not think them boys were that smart. I mean, I'm thinking about it like either one, they see something like that happen and then they learn, or two, it's like, you know, or two, a trainer taught them how to do that and they got like treats or something. That's my thoughts.
Scary stories about Disneyland, except this one there's actual proof. One time a guy went to Disneyland and was waiting to ride the roller coaster on Space Mountain. He was standing in line when a guy with red hair came up to him and started talking to him. He seemed nice, but he was a little bit odd. But the thing is, when the ride was over, this red-haired man literally vanished into thin air. The guest reported this incident and was told that he was alone the entire time. This guest might have just encountered a ghost people know as Mr. One Way. Rumor has it that he's the ghost of a man who passed away while on the ride in the 1970s. He always vanishes right before the ride is over, and he likes to talk to people who are riding the roller coaster alone. People have also reported seeing him in the cast member locker rooms. Follow if you want a part 2 because there's so many ghost stories about Disneyland.
This father who murdered his 2 teenage daughters because they started into a mother falling going to the FBI.
When it back to the argument at home, no one caught a water gun part 1.
This isn't true.
Toys that saved lives, part 1. Back in 2016, when a group of kids were outside having a water gun fight, they realized that one of the apartments in their complex caught on fire. So the kids immediately sprung into action and started spraying the flames with their water guns. By the time the fire department arrived, there was no longer a fire. Next, in 2017, when a man got into a nasty argument at home, a young woman pulled out a knife on the man. Well, he grabbed the closest object near him, which was a toy lightsaber. He then somehow was able to fend off several knife attacks thanks to the toy lightsaber. Finally, from a story in 2020, a young girl was playing with a toy car outside when a wild raccoon came out of nowhere and lunged at the girl. Well, the girl then threw her toy car directly at the raccoon, distracting the raccoon long enough so she can run inside safely.
Real Disney ghost stories sent in by you guys, part 1. These Disneyland cast members wish to remain anonymous, but here are some stories about the little girl who haunts California Adventure. When I worked in Disney California Adventure, we would sometimes see a little girl and she would show up in the bakery tour alone. And usually by the time we figured out she was alone, she's gone. We asked another cast in the bakery and they said she comes by every now and then and wanders all the way to Little Mermaid. Before Disney California Adventure was built, it was a parking lot and she was hit by a tram, and since then her ghost has haunted the area. It's funny because there's a pattern here. Another cast member wrote to me about this little girl as well in Disney California Adventure. First of all, he says that every land has some sort of ghost. Like every little land in Disneyland has something that haunts it, which is crazy. The ghost I experienced the most and will stay with me is the little girl in the Little Mermaid building. She also likes to walk around on the Grizzly Peak side. She even pulled my keys out of my pocket because I wouldn't respond to her while I was cleaning a restroom and she was pounding a stall door. What? That is so scary. Here's another ghost story about the same girl. Apparently her name is Jennifer. I work at the restaurant on Buena Vista Street in California Adventure. Jennifer is very well known by cast members. She likes to lock the women's restroom doors. She turns candlesticks on the walls upstairs. I've heard a faint scream in the hallway on the second floor. She's pulled my hair a couple times, and she has shown herself to our custodial at 3 a.m. Have you ever had an encounter with this little girl spirit at Disney California Adventure?
Actually never been to Disney World. I feel like this year I'm definitely gotta go there. And if I see that girl or if I see anything about that, I gotta report it. Like, that's crazy.
Influencer was arrested after flaunting stolen goods to her 300,000 followers on TikTok. 22-year-old Marlena Velez took $500 worth of items to the self-checkout at a Target and scanned them with a fake barcode that listed them at cheaper prices. Police posted surveillance images of Velez online, which led to an anonymous tip to Marlena's socials, where they found her flaunting the items that she'd stolen to her hundreds of thousands of followers. Cops identified and later brought her into custody on charges of petty theft.
I'm not gonna lie, my generation, Gen Z, and the whole influencer scene, it's so stupid, bro. Like, if you're gonna do a crime like that, like, why would you post it to like so millions of people could see? Like, honestly, she got caught and she honestly deserves it, because like, she could have easily, like, I'm not saying you should do anything like this, but she could have easily did it and just, you know what I'm saying, been out, told a couple homies, that's it. But she wanted to go post it online to her 300,000 followers, and I doubt it only got 300,000 views, because it made the news, so that shit got definitely millions of views.
Public school system's failing, and this is proof. Why do we forget about Gibbons? Y'all know about gorillas, chimps with a different R rating, and this guy. Gibbons got left behind and left off the Great Apes lunch table. Not this time. I said this for gorillas, but Gibbons are really a whole walking comedy special without even trying. They're famous for the way they get from A to B, and there's actually a term for this. It's called brachiating. He sure does. It also means they have the most out-of-pocket wingspan nature's ever seen. Yo, it's a good thing they're still alive, because finding a fossil that could jump rope its own skeleton, that Jumanji junk would have put us in another pandemic. There's about 20 strains of this arms longer than a prohibition tree goblin seasoning the earth, including the white-cheeked gibbon, which definitely isn't venom. Apparently, out of all the apes, they're the only ones that mate for life. Including us. That's right, the throat scroll. Well, it's basically a built-in megaphone meant to amplify their calls. Why do they call? Well, some have a door, some have a gate, but gibbons, nah, they mark territory off straight. Basically, they use it to announce the borders of their turf, and you can hear it a mile out. In fact, gibbon couples will sing duets throughout the day, and sometimes they'll even bring the kids to make it a family matter. Also, if you're curious, for these ones, they're all born golden to, you know, blend in, but they all turn black when they're 6 months old. The males stay that way, but the females revert back to gold when they're older. So you can go back. They're silly, whimsical, tiger bullying branch merchants with more reach than Go-Go Gadget that could, let's be real, probably rip your arm off if they really wanted to. They may not be great apes, but they are to me.
And then committing the alleged crime. You see her loading up her car after shopping. This all happened.
So that lifestyle influencer stole more than $500 worth of stuff from Target. She recorded everything and then went home and posted a haul. It was said that she was scanning fake barcodes. So instead of scanning the items in her cart, she replaced them with cheaper items and scanned those instead. And I mean, we've all seen videos of people shoplifting at Target, Walmart, and all that. But the reason why this video went so viral is because not only did she steal all these items, but she was recording herself stealing, and then she went home, she did a haul, and she also did a day in the life with all the items that she stole. And the only reason she even got caught was because the footage from Target was posted on social media in hopes that someone can recognize her, and one of her followers were like, I follow this influencer on TikTok and Instagram. So they reached out, and that's how they caught her. They were able to match the footage of her stealing at Target with the footage that she took to post on her TikTok, showing off everything that she stole on that day. Now, another reason why this went so viral is because people are questioning how authentic is everything that we see on social media. You know, you see this woman who has this gorgeous house, beautiful furniture, everything just seems to be put together perfectly. And little did you know, she was actually stealing this entire time. This creator has gone back to posting but has turned off all her comments, and it just makes me wonder, how are you able to risk your life, your record, you know, your family, just to have this image on social media that is completely false?
Yeah, we see it all the time. Like, a lot of these influencers like to play this role like they got it like that. And don't get it wrong, there are some influencers that are really loaded, have a lot of money, but there's also a lot of them that aren't. And they like to play this victim like they are. And it's crazy because me and my homies talk about it all the time. We're like, bro, they love to just act rich to stay broke. Like, it's actually crazy. That's what we call it. We call it acting rich to stay broke. Because it's like, why are you buying a $10,000 jacket or like a freaking, you know what I'm saying, when you really don't got the money like that? Like, you're bugging.
These are videos humans were never meant to see. Okay, so we all know how weird Disney is and all the disturbing secrets they have. Well, this man who was at Disney made a wrong turn at the park, and ended up in this secret abandoned place inside Disney. And something about it is completely unsettling. Some people think it's Disney's creepy lair where they do all of their sinister things, and others think it's the back rooms. But just watch how the workers act and watch how scared the man is. Here's the video, and it's super disturbing.
I've been freaking trying to get out of here for the last like 10, 15 minutes. You weren't for your husband? No, I just freaking tried to go to the bathroom and I found myself in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I'm freaking, oh, guess. It's my card. Let me get Carol to help you. Yeah. Okay.
How did you get back here?
I just opened a random door and next thing you know I'm in here. What is that?
This is just an old building. I'll walk you out.
Okay.
This needs to get the right person to do it.
Man, talking about stairwell after door after sheesh. What is this place? Whoa. What is this? This big empty area in here. Hello, can you help me out?
Yes.
Please.
You're trying to get out of here?
Yes.
Yes, we've got a nice elevator. How'd you find your way up here? You're not even sure?
I have no clue.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I think this is right here. I'm gonna say the second floor. We're gonna find out.
Let's talk about the 2-year-old who lost his life at Disney World after a gator attacked him. So here we have 2-year-old Lane Graves. He and his family were from Nebraska, and in 2016, they traveled down to Florida to go to Disney World. On June 15th at around 8 o'clock, the family heads down to Seven Seas Lagoon, where they're screening Zootopia. A little bit about this lagoon. It was man-made, and they had always had an issue of stray gators getting in the water and staying there. On this specific day, at least 2 people had told employees that they had seen a gator in the lagoon area, and they did nothing, or it was too late, as one of them came even an hour before the attack happened. So Lane is on the beach playing around, building sandcastles and such in just inches of water, and when he bends down to get more, a gator comes rushing up out of the water and grabs him by his head. Lane's dad sees it happen and he rushes over, trying to pry Lane's head out of the gator's jaws. Unfortunately, he can't get Lane free, and the gator drags him further out into deeper water. Witnesses say that they saw the gator 20 miles from shore with the boy's feet sticking out from the water. The next day, Lane's body would be found with bites all over him, and experts would go on to call it a predatory attack. They'd also go on to say that they're certain that they tracked down the gator that did this and euthanized it. At the time, the only signs posted were no swimming signs. Now they've posted these signs. Lane's family chose not to sue, and in 2021, 5 years after the attack, in that time, 250 gators had been removed from Disney properties.
Just the way you are. That's our song.
The happy couple left the reception under a canopy of sparklers.
On their beginning of the golf cart ride, she said, "I wish this night could go on forever. The best night of her life."
Sam and Eric.
Just a few hours after the wedding ended, the bride would be dead. On April 28, 2023, this woman, Samantha Miller, married her favorite person in the world, Eric Hutchinson. The two had dated for a very long time and were super excited to finally tie the knot. So after months of preparation, the two finally got married in April of 2023. It was a beautiful ceremony and procession according to everyone who attended, and the couple was sent off with this amazing sparkler display. But just moments after leaving the wedding in a low-speed vehicle, they were struck from behind by a driver speeding in another car. Unfortunately, it was a devastating crash, and shortly after the crash, Samantha Miller would be pronounced dead on her own wedding night. The driver of the other vehicle was Jamie Lee Komorowski. Jamie had been speeding 65 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone, and her blood alcohol level was 3 times over the legal limit. It was her reckless driving that ended Samantha Miller's life. Eerily, Jamie's Instagram is still up, and her last post, posted 4 days before the accident, said, "Did someone say tequila?" I mean, it's just disturbing. This is obviously a horrific story, and I hope that there's justice at the end of the day, and that Jamie gets used to the inside of a prison cell. If you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife Courtney. It's available on all streaming platforms.
Lies that Disney tells to avoid traumatizing children. Pocahontas. She was 10 years old. and he was 27. She called him father. Sleeping Beauty. It is based on a story where a married king finds a sleeping princess. And the princess gave birth to a pair of twins while she was sleeping. The Little Mermaid. The prince married another. And the Little Mermaid turned into sea foam.
That's actually wild. It's crazy how Disney will make really crazy things into this subtle things so kids look at it different. It's kind of like songs back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, Flo Rida had a song called You Can Blow My Whistle. When I was a kid, I was like, yo, blowing whistles, I love blowing whistles. And now, hey, yo, and now that I'm older, I'm like, yo, this dude is crazy at blowing whistles. Like, what?
Okay, let's make this one quick. People are wondering why Drake dissed LeBron. Well, actually, he didn't. He more so expressed his feelings at LeBron. Hey, what's that? Well, it's a Drake tattoo of somebody who played for a team called the Irish and who wore the number 23. And well, in high school, LeBron played for the Irish and he wore the number 23. Now, Drake getting this tattoo shows you how close he probably thought him and LeBron were. But Drake had a problem. His definition of close is probably different than most people's. Drake's definition of close seems to be one of blind loyalty. Kendrick Lamar dissed me, Drake, so you can't like Kendrick Lamar. LeBron said. LeBron is seen turning up at Kendrick Lamar's concert. Drake said, why he do that? Drake's boy said, I think because he liked Kendrick music. Drake said, that was a rhetorical question, you out the crew. I got something for LeBron. So Drake unfollows LeBron James. How does LeBron respond to this? Well, he doesn't. But many months later, during LeBron's birthday, he's rapping Kendrick Lamar lyrics and looking like he's having a good time. Now, there's two things you gotta know about LeBron. One, LeBron James is a huge hip-hop fan and loves reciting the lyrics to his favorite songs. He does this in a bunch of videos. So there's nothing to read into him reciting Kendrick Lamar's lyrics on his birthday. This is just something he does. He's not dissing Drake. He's not, it's just something he does. And two, LeBron James is a huge fan of Kendrick Lamar. If you're a huge fan of hip-hop, you're probably a big fan of Kendrick Lamar. In fact, it's because of LeBron, Kendrick Lamar released an album called Untitled. LeBron liked his song so much, he told Kendrick to release the songs that he wasn't planning on releasing, his throwaway songs. So Kendrick says sure, and that's how Untitled was released. Now, here's where it starts to get wicked. See, Drake wasn't trying to hear all that. He said, look at this picture. You're supposed to be my boy. So after LeBron's birthday, Drake releases a song called Fighting Irish. Does that sound familiar? LeBron's mascot in high school was called the Fighting Irish. Now, let me be more specific. Drake didn't technically release this song. It was leaked. And I put quotes because Drake and a lot of artists have a history of leaking songs so they can technically fall back on saying, I didn't release a song, it just found its way to the public. Now, like I said, a lot of artists leak songs, but where Drake is different is he leaks diss songs. Because if the song does well, he says, ooh, that was all me. If the song doesn't do well, he says, oh, it was just a leak, and deletes the song. In fact, his first diss song towards Kendrick Lamar, Push-Ups, was a leak. People said, ooh, this song is good. So Drake is like, yeah, that's all me. This song against LeBron James, Fighting Irish, people are like, Drake, that's not it. So the song gets deleted. He says, oh, I don't know. Now, to distance himself even further, he never mentions LeBron James by name. He just says Fighting Irish. He just says, my brother went to the Kendrick Lamar concert. That hurt me. I thought we was cool. I went to a party. I saw you. You didn't talk to me. I thought we was cool. Kendrick Lamar said. Drake said, no, Kendrick, the TikToker making a video about me. You're not supposed to be here. Kendrick said, I'm not going to be here for long. I just wanted to say everything is going according to plan. You see, here's where it starts to get wickeder. All of this might be according to Kendrick's plan. In one of his diss songs towards Drake, he said, LeBron, keep the family away. Steph Curry, keep the family away from Drake. Basically saying Drake is a weirdo. Don't associate yourself with Drake. And well, Kendrick knew how much of a fan Drake was of LeBron and Steph Curry. As soon as I heard this line, I said, oh, Kendrick, a super villain. And like Drake said in his song, when we went to a party, you, most likely LeBron James, ignored me. And well, this is just speculation, but maybe it's because LeBron doesn't want to really be associated with Drake anymore. But I say speculation because there could be a million reasons. Maybe LeBron went to the party and didn't see Drake. Maybe LeBron heard Drake unfollowed him. Maybe he heard Drake doesn't like him, so LeBron said, oh, let me just not speak to him. Maybe LeBron just doesn't care and he has a wife and kids and a whole family. A million reasons. Regardless, Drake took it as LeBron ignored me at a party. LeBron always singing Kendrick songs. He likes Kendrick more than me. And Lord, I said I wasn't gonna make this a long video. Bro, if I had to talk about Drake one more time,
I like a lot of the Drake songs, but like Drake is so emotional sometimes. Like this unfollowing and just like, oh my God, he's not supporting me. I mean, I don't know. Drake, you know what I'm saying? I'll admit Drake did do a lot for a lot of people in the industry that did end up turning their back on him. But at the same time, if you have this much people in the industry against you, you got to kind of ask yourself, maybe you're the problem. Because, if it was one person and then, and then like, maybe like one more other person, it's like, you never really know. But if this is like the whole industry, mad people turning on you, you got to ask yourself, maybe I'm the problem. You got to start pointing the thumb instead of pointing the finger, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, Drake's at the top of his game, so maybe people just want to knock him off the throne. But at the same time, Michael Jackson's at the top of his game, and not many people wanted to knock him off the top of his throne, except for like people outside the industry. But not many people inside the industry hated Michael Jackson, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm kind of looking at like, maybe Drake is the problem, like at this point.
Did y'all hear about what this former WNBA player said about LeBron James? This was 3 years ago when she said this too. With all the stuff going on nowadays, with all these speculation, allegations, I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it. But this is her right here. Her name is Cappy Pondexter. Maybe she is copping, I don't know. That's why I got y'all for, to let me know what y'all think. But in my mind, only thing she said that was a little off was the last thing she said. I'm like, what?
I ain't confused. I ain't on that shit. That nigga tried to kill me for real. I just fucking got out of that shit. I've been missing for almost like 2 years. I didn't even know where the fuck I was at. I do not fuck with LeBron James. That nigga's a trafficker, my nigga. That nigga is a trafficker. He is a fucking trafficker. He trafficked women in real time. That nigga stole all my money out of my bank account.
I mean, maybe that explains Drake unfollowing LeBron, but nah, that's a crazy allegation. Claim that LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, is a trafficker. I mean, he did say there's no party like a Diddy party, but at the same time, who knows, bro? I want to sit here and be like, I doubt it, but at the same time, you really never know. Some people could be the calmest people and be weirdos in the background, so you never really know. But anyways, I know I've been gone for a little bit. I know this is a little bit of a longer video. If you guys like this video, remember our like goal is 1,000 likes. Happy 2025 to you and your family. Hopefully you guys had a great New Year and Christmas. I've been gone for like a month, it feels like, so you know what I'm saying, how to pump a video out for you guys real quick. I'm trying to be back consistent. Apparently TikTok's also getting banned like next week, but I got like months of TikToks on schedule, so if it does end up getting banned, which I hope it doesn't, I still got like months worth of videos to make. So make sure to stick around for that, and also I'm dropping a vlog video coming soon, so make sure to look out for that. Let me know your thoughts about these TikToks and what's going on in 2025.
We have some really big news right now. Senator Ed Markey has just filed a bill to extend the date of the TikTok ban by 270 days to give more time for lawmakers to find a solution for this app. Yes, the January 19th date remains in place, but senators like Ed Markey are putting forth legislation as we speak that you can call your senators and advocate for to extend the ban date by 270 days. Senator Markey just finished speaking on the Senate floor, and he noted the significant concerns with a ban. The fact that 170 million Americans use it, the fact that millions of small businesses are on this app and rely on it for their livelihoods. Folks, call your senators, urge them to pass this legislation. It's not too late. There are still avenues, no matter what the Supreme Court does, to save TikTok. I'll continue to advocate for it. I'll encourage you to do it as well. And if TikTok is ever banned, I'll be on my other social platforms continuing to provide you news coverage at the link in my bio. But for now, let's continue to advocate to save this platform.
Yeah, I don't think they should ban TikTok because they're just like privacy, all this and all that. But at the same time, Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and X, they all have like in their agreements where they could use your data and give it to third parties. The only difference between them and TikTok is that TikTok is, I guess, a Chinese company, so they don't really want the Chinese having our data. But like, when it comes to privacy, all the other apps do the same thing. And I also saw someone say that some Canadian billionaire might buy TikTok, or Elon Musk might buy TikTok. But if Elon buys TikTok, he's gonna have X and TikTok. It's gonna be like, you know what I'm saying, almost like a monopoly. So I don't think he should, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments.
It seems Donald Trump wants to build a massive empire during his presidency. First, he'll take over Canada, then Mexico, the Panama Canal, and finally, Greenland. If this vision became a reality, here's what the US might look like. Removing borders with Canada would boost security and cut defense costs, as the US spends heavily on Canada's defense. Adding Mexico would bring cultural richness, workforce, and a booming tourism industry. Greenland's strategic location and natural resources would make the US a true global superpower. And with the Panama Canal under its control, this nation would dominate global trade and energy flows. The combined land area would be 9.3 million square miles, 1.5 times larger than Russia. With a population of over 500 million, this new country would be the third most populous, behind India and China. And with a GDP over $30 trillion, its power would be unquestionable.
Which is the city that people regret moving to the most in the United States? Most Americans do not know that the city where people feel the most satisfied after moving to in the US is Madison, Wisconsin. So which is the city that people regret moving to the most in the United States? Fifth place, Oakland, California. Oakland faces high living costs with average expenses around $3,146, significant crime, and rapid gentrification causing many to regret moving there. Fourth place, Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas struggles with limited job opportunities beyond hospitality, severe desert heat affecting comfort, and a high 20% annual resident turnover, leading to regret. Third place, Houston, Texas. Houston's urban sprawl necessitates car use, causing traffic issues. Intense summer heat and humidity, plus frequent flooding impacting 25% of the city, lead to regret among residents. In the second place, Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta faces severe traffic, high crime rates, and significant economic disparity with 21% of its population below the poverty line, causing regret among residents. Before announcing the first place, comment in the section below the city you think that people regret moving to the most in the United States. The city ranks first, struggles with a 7% unemployment rate, impacting young professionals' career prospects. Harsh winters and slow economic revitalization in healthcare and tech further decrease resident satisfaction. That's Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow, those are some popular places. I'm actually surprised with some of those because those are some like majority commercialized places. I feel like that's why it might be regrettable because maybe too many people fluctuate to that area. And if you live in any of those cities, let me know if you regret moving there.
This woman got 0 prison time after stabbing her boyfriend 108 times. In 2018, 26-year-old Chad O'Melia's life was savagely taken in his apartment in California by his girlfriend. 33-year-old Bryn Spetcher says that on this day, she was tricked by Chad into smoking a highly potent strain of marijuana, which caused her to go into psychosis. She says that she remembers immediately walking into the kitchen and grabbing several knives and stabbed her dog before going after Chad and taking his life. Bryn then turned the knife on herself and attempted to take her own life before police arrived. And authorities also said that it wasn't easy restraining Bryn and that the taser didn't even work on her. Now, Bryn's defense argues that she reacted this way because she only smoked less than 6 times in her life, which that combined with the high potent marijuana explains why she took her boyfriend's life. Bryn ended up only receiving just 2 years of probation, 100 hours of community service, and no prison time.
So I remember looking at this graph that shows the dangers of the drugs on people and the dangers of drugs from people onto other people. And it's crazy to see marijuana on that list because everyone knows it to be like a relaxer, you know what I'm saying? You smoke some weed, you relax, you maybe eat some food or something, lay on the couch, be lazy. It's usually alcohol that has that effect where you do some stupid stuff. So that's very interesting for me to hear that. And if you do, let me know your thoughts about that.
That will give you hope. A missing 5-year-old who walked out the back door was found in a nearby river and rescued by a Florida officer. A Burger King employee who went viral recently for working 27 years and only receiving a goodie bag from Burger King was able to buy a house thanks to the donations from going viral. A man was finally arrested in a 1973 cold case. Long Beach, California has fixed nearly half of its 63,000 potholes. A stray dog that was desperate to be picked up by a pup bus got adopted. We have discovered that microplastics can be removed from water when you boil it. A California cat traveled 800 miles back home after getting lost at Yellowstone National Park. Thailand has recently seen a 250% increase in the number of tigers in the country.
Celebrity plastic surgery disasters. Anthony Lofredo before, after. Sahar Tabar before, after. Michael Jackson before, after. Jocelyn Wildenstein before, after. Melanie Martinez before, after. Donatella Versace before, after. Igor and Grichka Bogdanov before, after.
South Carolina, it is your turn to be shamed for having creepy things. This is a gigantic children's museum that is a boy that you can go inside its body and look at its body parts. And this is how big it is compared to humans. Yeah, his name is Eddie, and this is called Adventure, and it's in South Carolina. And look how tiny the people are compared to just its shoe. You can sit in the chair and take a picture with Eddie. I'd rather not. This is inside of Eddie's head, and you can see his eyeballs and his teeth. Also, if the children don't have faces, it's because I had to blur them out. So they might look like demons. You know what this reminds me of, though? When you're in the tubes at Chuck E. Cheese and you're trying to get your mom's attention. But yeah, look how absolutely massive that thing is compared to these kids. No. You can go on this catwalk and look at him, or you can literally just go inside him, like I said. Imagine it at night when all the lights of the museum go off and you can look through the window and see it in the pitch darkness. Look, this Eddie's brain. You can go down these slides. There's a bunch of like interactive stuff for kids, like actually climbing up and going through his heart, stuff like that. It's nightmare fuel. Kids probably aren't scared though. Meanwhile, I would be. But yeah, have you seen Eddie? Will you go see Eddie? He is in South Carolina. Y'all are gonna have to tell him that I said hello because I'm not going.
Am I weird? Because like I would actually do something like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? You bored on like a Sunday, you want an adventure, just go see Eddie Adventure. What's his name? Adventure? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that bad. Maybe I'm weird.
Before and after images that will shock you.
I heard someone said your body, my choice. I agree. Dépêche-toi. It is a sickness. So here's how nature deals with that. Bonobos actually have a system where if one female gets pressed by a male and she's not feeling him, she'll let out a cry, and every female in the group will pull up and put the beats on dude until he learns respect. They actually managed to nerf male aggression through the power of friendship. So you know, when a new male lion takes over a pride, the first thing he does is cancel any cubs that didn't come from his. Well, sometimes the lionesses ain't having it. Sometimes they jump the new guy. There was one case in Masai Mara where a male tried to steal food from some cubs and got absolutely obliterated by the mothers. They castrated him. I can't even show you that picture. The biggest threat to a baby bear is a bigger male, and some mother bears will purposely live closer to people, knowing that's the only thing keeping her biggest ops away. Ironically, some bears choose the man. Funny. When a capybara wants to dub a guy, she'll dive into the nearest body of water and just sit there. for as long as it takes. By the way, the guinea pig can stay under 5 minutes. Female dragonflies will fake their deaths to avoid male attention. Like they'll freeze in midair, crash to the ground, and just lay there and pray that stops him. Sometimes it doesn't. Some anacondas will seemingly let the male score, only to strangle him to a flatline and then eat him alive. The more you know.
Don't ever use a public bathroom again. This, my friends, is Akamata. Plus, drop a like, tag a friend, or she might get you. Akamata is a Japanese ghost that haunts and kills people in public bathrooms. It said that she'll walk up to you and ask you a series of questions. These are extremely important. The most important question being, would you rather choose red or blue? If you choose red, she'll chop you up into a million pieces. If you choose blue, she'll choke you to death until your face is blue. If you try to avoid the question entirely and choose a different color, she will drag you to hell to be never seen again. My question to you guys is it worth not waiting till you get home?
I didn't think it was possible, but this line was even more of a menace than I imagined. Like, I knew he was a hater, but I rewatched the doc, bro. This was Kitty King Von. The more lore you get, the crazier. First, his name, Ntwa Dumela, actually isn't Swahili. I was so ready to blame the documentary, but I watched. They never said it was Swahili. I think I made it my bad. But yeah, Ntwa Dumela's name is Siswana, or Sisutu, and it roughly translates to, if you want the smoke, we'll bring the fire to your front door. First red flag, he ran a pride with his brother Mandevu, but while Mandevu was only after that, Ntwa Dumela didn't care, he craved conflict. Now here's where he earns his name. His pride was beefing with a clan of hyenas, and we're talking blood feud. You know how bad? Animals mark their scent, but usually predators don't care about the scent mark of other predators. It got so personal, the lead hyena would go out of her way to mark over the pride scent mark, and for reference, that's like painting over the set. And when you realize what hyenas mark with, you see the disrespect. Look up hyena butter. It's not the type you put on popcorn. Now add the fact they were harassing members of his pride, and you knew. Ntwa Dumela was not letting it slide. Here's what he did. One night the Yins and Lions were going at it, and Ntwa Dumela went straight for the matriarch and broke her back. Didn't even finish it, just cracked her like a glow stick and left like a sneaky link. Hyenas live in a complex hierarchy, so by crippling the leader, he basically tactically nuked their entire army. Now the diabolical part was the matriarch had a daughter who would have inherited the lead position, but because Ntwa Dumela went and bambied her mom, she lost all her status and got forced out the clan. So let's review. In one move, he assassinated the leader, left her to suffer, orphaned her daughter, ruined her future, destroyed her legacy, and caused the hyena civil war while ending theirs. Yeah, Ntwa Dumela got it. You've never heard a hyena stutter.
The 11-year-old sole survivor of a family massacre in Fall City, Washington, played dead after her teenage brother allegedly opened fire at her. 5 members of the family, parents Mark and Sarah Humiston, and their children Catherine, 7, Joshua, 9, and Benjamin, 13, were killed in the shooting. The 11-year-old daughter watched in horror as her 15-year-old brother checked his victims' bodies for signs of life. After he shot her in the hand and neck, she decided to play dead and escaped through a window after he left her room. The suspect was charged in juvenile court with 5 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of attempted murder.
This is wild. A notorious Colombian hit woman known as The Doll was just arrested by police yesterday for several high-profile hits, including her ex-boyfriend. And no, none of you in the comments can fix her. It's reported that 23-year-old Karen Rodriguez was labeled as highly dangerous by police and that she was in the midst of a career expansion, leading a small team of hitmen conducting a spree of you-know-what in the region prior to her arrest. And after her capture went viral online, people pointing out how much she looks like actor Aubrey Plaza are now calling for a movie to be made and for her to star as the doll character.
Shocking facts you didn't know about power cuts. 40% of adults in the UK admit their first call would be to their mum and dad during a power cut. Who would you call? The UK's most memorable power cut happened in 1978 during national strikes. 1 in 5 British people surveyed said they would sit in the dark until the power comes back on and hope someone else solves the problem. The 2003 power cut left 500,000 people without electricity for hours. Almost half of the adults in the UK admitted they don't know about the 105 emergency helpline number. What if you or someone you love need support during a power cut? Get prepared and learn more at nationalgrid.co.uk/getswitchedon.
The weirdest world records of all time. In 2011, a cheerleading team of 20 people set a world record. This record was fitting every single person into this tiny smart car. Now here's an interesting record that was broken by a woman in Japan. She popped 123 balloons with just her butt in 1 minute. I guess leg day really does pay off.
People you won't believe exist. Eli Thompson. He was born without a nose. Paul Carrison. His skin color is purple-blue. Isaiah Acosta. He was born without jaw and ability to speak, but become a rapper. B. Melvnin. She has naturally white hair, since birth. Darina Spingler. She was born without chin and lips.
There was one kid that were like, oh, he has no chin or jaw, so he can't speak, but he's a rapper. So you can't speak, but you can rap?
Stillwater. We've already talked about Stillwater, but I had a dream last night that I fell in some Stillwater, so I'm going to make it everyone else's problem. Stillwater is, get this, when water is still. It mostly occurs in like abandoned places, obviously, because there's no, vacuum keeping the water moving. So it's very, very dangerous, as we've already talked about. There are like a bunch of like brain-eating amoebas probably in here, and don't fall in it. I found this picture on Reddit and my soul left my body. Why does that look like a wig? Why does it look like the Grudge is in chocolate milk and it's coming to kill me? This one looks like Shrek and Fiona had some fun in it, if you get my drift. This one is more liminal spaces, but the decals of, are those whales or dolphins on the bottom of the pool would send me into cardiac arrest. Any pools that have anything on the bottom of them, like a decal or something, count me out, because I'm already scared there's a shark in there. Why are there so many abandoned pools that have not been cleaned out? Why? This abandoned YMCA with this water sitting in there for like 5 to 10 years. Why? Yeah, Stillwater is dangerous, y'all. Don't mess with it. This is horrifying. I don't know why it's so much less scary to think about falling in water that is, aerated, no movement is so much scarier. How do you feel about Stillwater?
Do not watch this movie because it will unalive you. Why is this known as the most deadly film on Earth? Movie Antrim is about two siblings who accidentally dig a hole that leads to hell. It's reportedly caused over 60 unalives, and when you start the film it even comes up with a legal warning that you have to read. Many people mysteriously passing away after watching this film. So, this actually released in 2018, but the actual original Antrim released in 1970, rumored to have been completely lost because you cannot find it anywhere, even though there is documentation of it being shown in theatres, which I'll get to. So, several film festivals who received the movie back in the 70s, the people that got it, vanished, passed away. But by far the craziest, a movie theatre completely catching alight while the film was being screened. In 1988, in Budapest, the film Antrim was showed, it burnt down and unalived 56 people. This is an actual photo from the scene, this is 100% real. There is still no trace what caused this fire, and the reel that the film played off remained intact, completely unharmed. All of these events caused Antrim to become the most cursed film and dangerous film on the planet. You can watch this new version. As I say, it has a pretty severe warning at the start, but I do not recommend it. Let me know in the comments if you've seen it.
Honestly, the goat with the little pentagram on his forehead where the third eye is, that's all I need to see to know I'm not watching that.
Broke a world record because police forgot about him. In 1979, 18-year-old Andreas Mijovich was taken into police custody following a car accident. Now, he was simply the passenger of the car and had absolutely no involvement with the wreck. But despite this, he was placed in a basement holding cell by Austrian police. Now, he should have been promptly released, but they kind of forgot about him. The 3 officers who were all involved with the case all thought that another one had already released him. It wasn't until the room he was in began to smell that they found him 18 days later. During his incarceration, he had lost over 50 pounds and survived by drinking condensed water on the prison walls. His mother repeatedly visited the police station asking the whereabouts of her son, and she was ignored. During the trial, all 3 officers kind of just put the blame on one another, but they did all receive a pretty hefty fine, and Andreas was awarded the 250,000 shillings that he demanded. To this day, even though he didn't try, he still holds the Guinness World Record for the longest surviving time without food or water.
$250,000 for that? Damn. I feel like that's a little bit undervalued if you ask me. Alright, so let's say I came up to you, right, and I was just like, yo, $250,000 right now, 18 days, no food, no water, prison cell. Would you take it? Exactly. You wouldn't take that. At least give me $1 million for that. You know what I'm saying? At least an M. Mostly with today's inflation, yeah, I'm gonna need at least $1 million.
I know you know this holiday movie, but do you know these movie facts? Holiday Horror Advent Calendar Day 6, and today is Black Christmas, 2006 version. I hope this doesn't get me canceled, but I love the original Black Christmas, but I prefer this one. Black Christmas is about this escaped maniac who goes back to his childhood home, which is now a sorority house, and wreaks havoc on the sorority sisters. Movie trivia number 1. In the background of one of the scenes, we see something very familiar. You can spot the leg lamp from the movie A Christmas Story, which was directed by Bob Clark, who also directed the original Black Christmas. Movie trivia number 2. The movie was filmed in Canada and only took 29 days to complete filming. Movie trivia number 3. Writer and director Glenn Morgan really wanted to expand on Billy's character because he felt like that's what was missing in the original Black Christmas. So when he was coming up with different character traits, he studied one very specific person. He based a lot of character traits and backstory on real life serial unaliver Edmund Kemper.
So much has happened in the last 24 hours, it's insane. California was hit with a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, which then triggered a tsunami warning, which was then cancelled. The French government has literally collapsed after their prime minister was booted out in the first successful vote of no confidence in over 60 years. Romania's constitutional court has just ordered their presidential elections to restart from scratch after intelligence documents suggested that the winner of the first round benefited from a mass foreign influence operation. People are calling for the Hawk girl to be investigated after she launched a meme coin that dropped over 90% of its value overnight, losing people millions of dollars. The words carved onto the shells used in the killing of United Health CEO are claimed to lead to this book titled Delay, Deny, Defend: Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It. The Czech Republic has just passed a bill exempting Bitcoin held for more than 3 years from capital gains tax starting 2025. The family of the teenage boy who fell to his death on the drop ride at Orlando theme park in 2022 has just been awarded a huge $310 million payout. TikTok lost its appeal to strike down the TikTok ban law, and NASA has just delayed its first mission to put humans on the moon in over 50 years to no earlier than mid-2027.
They'd be tied with ropes and dragged under the ship's hull. As they were pulled beneath the boat, sharp barnacles and rough wood scraped against their skin, causing deep cuts and bleeding. The salt water worsened the pain, stinging the open wounds. If the sailor wasn't pulled out quick enough, there was a high risk of drowning before reaching the other side. If they did manage to survive, it just meant they were ready for round 2.
Yeah, apparently that's what pirates used to do to torture their victims. Isn't that crazy? I would not want to be on a pirate ship back in them days.
Imagine hating your family so much that you fake your own death to run away with another woman. Well, that's exactly what this man did. On August 11, Ryan Borgward went on a fishing trip, and that was the last time his wife and 3 kids saw him. His wife reported him missing, and when police went to go look for him, they found his kayak upside down, his car still parked, and his cell phone in the water. So obviously police thought that there was an accident and he drowned, so they had a search team look for him in the water, but they couldn't find him. But then in October, 2 months after he disappeared, police found out that he crossed over into Canada just a few days after he went missing. So imagine, at first the family's devastated because they think that their father is dead, but then they find out that he's alive and he's in Canada. When police got a hold of his laptop, they found out that this man had been plotting how to fake his death for months. He went about getting a new passport, purchased a $375,000 life insurance policy. He wiped out everything from his computer and even changed the emails linked to his bank accounts. But it gets even crazier because police found out that he sent money to a foreign account, and then they find out that he was in contact with a Russian woman this entire time. So did he leave his family to start a new life? But then everything kind of went downhill for him because he sent police a video telling them that he was safe and alive and there's nothing to be worried about. Then he decided to return to Wisconsin a couple of days ago, and he was arrested for faking his own death. So my question is, what made him come back? Did his relationship with this woman not work out?
Crazy things happening in the world right now. A bear that attacked luxury cars in LA was actually a person in a costume. A bear that...
Did his relationship with this woman not work out?
Crazy things happening in the world right now. A bear that attacked luxury cars in LA was actually a person in a costume, according to insurance investigators. Passengers have a new fear unlocked because the plane they were on flew for 9 hours and then landed back at the same airport they came from. Mike Tyson reminded a child reporter that she too will die someday. A police officer pulled over his own boss for speeding. A former inmate sued Oklahoma jail officers for their baby shark torture tactic. A woman who dropped her phone in between two boulders got stuck upside down trying to get it. A fire station burned down in Germany after there was no fire detection system installed. The latest study shows that self-driving cars are safer than humans driving cars unless it's dawn, dusk, or it's trying to turn. A new alleged potato cartel is being accused of conspiring to raise the price of frozen fries and tater tots across the United States.
So the self-driving cars are only safe when it's on a highway going straight. That's pretty much what they're saying. He said it has trouble turning. When you're in the cities, all you do is turn, so it's only good on the highways. That's pretty much what they're saying.
Facts that will definitely make your skin crawl, part 2. There is more of a chance of you finding a dead body underneath your bed than actually finding it in the garbage. If you ever plug your nose during a sneeze, you can actually rupture a blood vessel in your neck or your brain and it'll cause you to bleed to death. The electric chair was actually invented by a dentist. If a black cat looks at you and runs, it usually means something is about to happen to you, usually being pretty bad.
Insane true stories that you won't believe. Back in 2004, a man named Mitch who was a senior in college fell in love with a girl in his grade. After they graduated, they moved in together and began to work. And 2 years later, they got married. Not too long after, Mitch's wife became pregnant. But his job was going so well that his wife was able to stay at home and take care of their newborn baby. And a few years after that, his wife became pregnant again. Mitch absolutely adored his family. And with raising his kids and having a great job, he was living his best life. But one night while he was watching TV, he noticed something strange out of the corner of his eye. A red lamp in their family living room was blurry. Nothing else in the room was blurry to Mitch except for that lamp. He decided to shrug it off, but when he looked at it again, it was not only blurry, but it appeared to be upside down. He didn't tell his family because he didn't want to concern them. But after a few days, Mitch became obsessed over this lamp. He even skipped work just to stare at it all day long.
Alright, who am I mad at? You! I'll never forgive you for that. Crazy how a cereal commercial managed to gaslight us about this bird. Toucans are one of the strangest dinosaurs still alive, and no, I'm being serious. First of all, it's not even a parrot, it's basically a giant woodpecker. And they're not just fruit-loving rainbow vegans, they eat other birds. As in, they'll go out of their way to raid nests and eat the baby birds inside. Yeah, follow your nose, right? You know, when they're not also murking bats and frogs and pretty much anything else. I've even seen one life-deprive an owl. Y'all think they're cute, but I see right through them. And like this bird in reverse, you can too. The skin is so thin and translucent, you can stretch it and shine a light through it. It's like it's not even there. They also have a serrated beak. You know, serrated, like a knife. Unless you're a flying fruit ninja, there's no reason for a vegetarian to have that hardware. The signs were there. This tropical drone also has a feather duster for a tongue. That tongue's entire purpose is to shove food back down its throat, and food can be a blueberry or a struggling baby bird trying to escape, but the only way out is through the south mouth. Speaking of which, this is my life. I hate it. Understand that owning a toucan is owning a ballistic, unregulated paintball that will redecorate your home with color bombs whenever they feel like it. I just want to reiterate, any small animal you put near this bird is in danger, but if you want to put a sugar glider next to a Fruit Loops mascot, that is a decision. And they're not that bad. The babies are cute, and they purr.
These are scary cartoon truths that'll terrify you, part 16. Charlie Brown apparently has cancer. The most obvious clue that Charlie Brown has cancer is that he is mostly bald except for the one small tuft of hair on the front of his head. No other character in the show appears as bald, so it implies that it just wasn't a random characteristic style. The other odd thing about Charlie Brown is his down and out personality. He's always dealing with existential crises, way deeper than any normal 8-year-old should contemplate. The theory goes on to suggest the reason that nothing ever works out for him and his life is always a disaster is because he's in a hospital bed, slowly fading away and projecting his sadness into dreams.
I mean, that is kind of sus, because how are you 8 years old already pretty much fully bald? It's a little bit not very youthful, I guess.
These are the craziest knockoffs of popular cartoons. Most people know about the amazing world of Gumball, but today I'm going to introduce you to Miracle Star, a Chinese show that was launched in 2014. This knockoff didn't just copy the animation style, it recreated entire scenes from Gumball. The main character is also a cat boy whose brother is a fish with legs. The creators of Gumball obviously found out about this, so they went ahead and made an episode called The Copycats, where the two families from the shows face off. Next, I think we all agree that the Cars franchise franchise is a masterpiece. Well, today I'm bringing you something better. This is a movie called The Autobots, a Chinese movie that was released in 2015. The movie got immediate attention because of its resemblance to Cars. And when I say resemblance, I mean it's almost the exact same movie. The only difference is that in this world there are actual humans, and the characters are very slightly different. But it's pretty obvious that the main character is a blatant copy of Lightning McQueen. And in Cars we have Francesco, but in Autobots we have Francisco instead. The movie's director actually defended it, saying he had never seen Cars before. And there was a sequel planned to come out in 2017, but Disney won a copyright lawsuit against them, so it was cancelled.
I don't know why that writer was lying. Like, it's literally an exact copy. It's either he's seen it before or someone in his team has seen it before and just copied it, you know?
These are the strangest things that have ever been caught on camera. This video shows what appears to be a dark humanoid type creature crawling towards a bunch of boys playing soccer. Once the kids see it, they immediately run away in terror. Nobody knows for sure what this animal was, but many people claim that it was the South American mythical beast known as the Pombero. This next video was taken at the funeral of a 7-year-old girl. It shows one of the balloons that was next to her coffin somehow floating directly to her crying mother in the audience. Many people believe that this was the girl trying to comfort her mother from the grave.
Male lion will step in and show everyone how it's done.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've been wanting to talk about this for a minute. Now I have an excuse. Male lions can hunt. They're actually very good at it. Do you peep the two men? The whole them not hunting thing, that comes from lion pride, and there's a reason for that. You see, lady lions are great at getting groceries, but they can get jacked by hyenas or even other male lions. I think it's something like they only keep 24% of the animals they take down, so it's actually the male's job to defend the kill. Kind of hard to do that when you spend all that energy catching it. Also, the way they hunt is different. Lionesses hunt as a pack running down prey. With lions, the mane kind of gives them away, so they're mostly ambush hunters. When male lions do help hunt, it's usually to help bring down bigger tanks like buffalo. They're like mercenaries. They just come in and finish the job. Simba also has to patrol his territory and run fades with any down bad males that want to take over his pride. Yeah, no pride to be found after that. Also, before they even get a pride, they're in their bachelor nomad era, and if they don't hunt for themselves, they die. Here's some other lion facts, just because I feel like it. It's actually proven lions will leave an area after murking something just to give their survivors a chance to let their guard back down. Some lionesses will purposely play paternity roulette and give up the lion yash to any males, even ones outside the pride, because not knowing who the father is actually saves the cubs from meeting Mufasa. In 2004, a man jumped into a lion exhibit and attempted to convert them to Christianity.
I feel like us humans naturally forget that life is supposed to be violent. Like, as sad as it is to say, but if you really look at nature, it's automatic just eat for eat. So like this guy trying to go and tell him the lion like, hey, Jesus is your savior. That lion's like, gang, I'm trying to eat. I'm hungry.
How shows were originally supposed to look. So Toy Story featured this much larger, wide-chinned Woody that was actually supposed to be a villain, with Buzz Lightyear appearing in a red suit. Glad they changed that. Monsters Inc. originally animated Mike Wazowski without hands and looking a bit less friendly, and Sully was completely different, foregoing blue for brown and looking a bit more dorky. Lost media of Shrek was found in 1996, which had Shrek looking a lot creepier with very little resemblance to the good-looking man that we all know and love today. Lightning McQueen was supposed to be a basic stock car with more body to appeal to more viewers, since race cars are considered to be too low. Finding Nemo originally had the whale scene with only Nemo, and made the blue whale a lot less intimidating than in the final version. Smurfs had an unpolished finish leading up to the days before final production, looking like this. And finally, Sonic from Sonic the Hedgehog movie was originally animated to look like this. Pretty cool, right?
This man was seen sleepwalking every night to an abandoned well, and when people found out why, he was arrested. Part 2. Inside, they found barrels of gunpowder. It turns out Assad was sent to the village by a large mining company. The village was actually built on a large gold deposit, but for years the villagers wouldn't let the company mine it. So every week, the company would send Assad a shipment of gunpowder, which he secretly poured down the well. And when the time was right, he would set it off, causing a massive landslide, destroying the village and letting the company mine the gold. But before I tell you what happened, if you want to erase corrupt world leaders that invade other countries or really anything from your photos, you need to try this. Just press this button on my profile and try erasing something. Since Assad was always thinking about this plan, he would subconsciously walk there while he was sleepwalking, which ultimately got him caught.
3 facts that could save your life, part 5. If you ever find yourself trapped on a thin piece of ice and have no way of getting back to to safe land before it breaks, lie down on your stomach and start slowly crawling back to exactly the way you came in on. That'll put less stress on the ice, making it almost impossible for it to break. Most people understand flags on shorelines, but the purple flag confuses most people. The purple flag being the warning that the most dangerous sea creatures are in that exact area, such as jellyfish, stingrays, and of course, sharks. If you ever feel like puking while you're scuba diving, vomit into the regulator. Do not remove it from your mouth. Removing it from your mouth will make it impossible to reapply it on your face, meaning that you're probably pretty far underwater, and once you remove that from your face, you probably will most likely drown. Like and follow for more videos.
People throw up underwater? I wonder how that feels like. Imagine throwing up into your breathing thing. Damn, dude.
So nobody finds it interesting that Moana goes looking for her ancestors that are connected to the sea and she comes back with Negro.
Hello, my friend. How could Moana have African-appearing ancestors if she's meant to be Polynesian? This is an understandable mistake, but the people depicted in Moana 2 are not meant to be African, but instead Melanesians. While the Melanesian appearance shares a lot in common with the appearance of populations in Africa, they're actually further genetically to Africans than Europeans are. The story of Moana is rooted in the history of the Austronesian migration. Around 4,000 years ago, it's understood that Austronesian-speaking people began their voyages from Taiwan, moving across the islands of Southeast Asia. As they sailed, parts of their population settled in islands they crossed, developing into the populations of Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, to name a few. They eventually sailed across the Pacific Ocean, and some even reached Madagascar, leading to the people of Madagascar today. It's the part of the migration where they started sailing across the Pacific Ocean that explains what you saw in the movie, as well as why Polynesians tend to appear physically different than their Indonesian or Filipino cousins. The Austronesians that sailed towards the Pacific began interacting with the Melanesians, who today remain residing in the islands of Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, and Fiji. Over thousands of years, these groups remained interacting with each other, trading goods, ideas, and even genetics. And so that's why Polynesians and, well, Moana would have some Melanesian ancestry.
Celebrities that disappeared and were never found. Bison Dele played in the NBA for 8 years after being drafted in 1991, even winning a championship alongside Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in 1997. Despite having 5 more years in a $45 million contract with the Pistons, he abruptly retired at the age of 30 in 1999. In his retirement, he enjoyed traveling the world in his catamaran boat that he called Hakuna Matata. On July 6 of 2002, Bison, his older brother Miles, his girlfriend Serena, and skipper Bertrand left Tahiti. By July 8th, the family of Bison and Serena had completely lost contact with them. On July 20th, Miles returned to Tahiti with the boat, but this time, he was alone. 2 months later, Miles would be arrested in Phoenix for attempting to forge his brother's signature, attempting to buy over $150,000 worth of gold. The boat was discovered off the coast of Tahiti with the nameplate completely removed and possible bullet holes that had been patched. Now, he confessed that him and his brother had gotten into an argument on the boat. Bison's girlfriend was accidentally hit, fell over, and smacked her head on the part of the boat, which resulted in her death. The captain then wanted to report her death, which is why Bison killed him. Miles then shot his brother in self-defense, threw the bodies overboard, and fled back to the US. Obviously, the story doesn't quite add up. Now, before police could even attempt to try and verify his story, he intentionally overdosed on insulin and died September 27th, 2002.
My biggest fear was having an ugly baby. Now look what the f I got. Look at him. He is so funny looking.
How dare you say something like this about your own child? To all the moms watching this, do you think this is normal? Now, I'm not married, I don't have kids, but this is messed up. You've been carrying this child for 9 months. This child is your own skin, and you go and call him ugly publicly online. To me, miss, your child looks adorable. There are women out there that gave birth to babies missing arms and legs, and they were never treated differently than other kids. These kids eventually grow up winning golden medals in Special Olympics. But the thing is, there's nothing wrong with your child, miss. What a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, that's wild. And how does she even know that he's ugly? Like, for real. Like, the kid is, like, probably looks like he's 1 month old. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really say that, for real. Like, she's bugging for that. Like, you're tweaking, kid.
An influencer has died at a creator event hosted by Box Lunch. If you're not aware of the story or of Dominique and the events that led up to this, Dominique Brown is a Disney influencer. She was invited to attend a creator event that was going to be hosted by Box Lunch. Dominique also had a number of severe allergies, which allegedly she had made the event team very aware of. But despite them being aware of that, an incident took place at the event where Dominique suffered a severe allergic reaction. People who were at the event made allegations that she did not receive very necessary medical attention in time, and it was confirmed Dominique did die at the event. The most disturbing and dystopian thing about all of this is that other creators, other influencers who attended this event are allegedly still posting content, positive content from the event, as if this event did not happen.
These are the most haunted places in the Philippines. Before I start listing them down, you do need to know that for all paranormal investigators, the country of Philippines is on their to-do list, as it's known worldwide for its haunted destinations. Starting at number 4, Fort Santiago, Intramuros in Manila. The walls of Intramuros turn into something terrifying, reminding you of the dark Spanish era. Thousands of civilians and soldiers were tortured and killed in Fort Santiago during World War II. It may be a hot tourist spot, but at night, the strange noises that are heard in this fort tends to keep visitors and tourists away. Number 3, Clark Air Base Hospital in Pampanga. This abandoned building used to be a military hospital during World War II and the Vietnam War. Paranormal investigators have confirmed that demons have conquered this property. It is commonly visited by YouTubers, but things always go wrong. The jinns that are specifically in this hospital are a little more protective towards their home. Number 2, Manila Film Center, Pasay City. This building is potentially one of Asia's most haunted destinations. When a building is haunted in the United States, you will hear noises. But when a building is haunted in the Philippines, it is a whole nother level. This film center was abandoned in the 80s after it collapsed during construction. It killed all the workers and none of their bodies were retrieved. And ever since, visitors were always warned to stay out of this building. The bad energy in this place spiritually drains you. And finally, number 1, Diplomat Hotel in Baguio City. Baguio City is ranked as the world's most haunted city as a whole. The Diplomat Hotel goes way back to 1911. No priests were able to cleanse this place. After many deaths inside this hotel, the business ceased its operations in 1987. Many paranormal investigators from around the world swore that they would never visit this building again. The Philippines is a beautiful country, but it is well known for its horrifying stories. You tell me, what country should I do next?
When an ant bites you, it grabs your skin with its pinchers. But it's not actually the pinchers that hurt you. You see, the ant uses them to hold on to your skin, but then they bend their bodies upwards and stab you with their stinger. Now, because they're holding on to you with such a good grip, it allows the ant to sting you multiple times in the same area. This injects you with their venom, which causes that sharp stinging pain.
That was a little bit strange. I was like, hey, yo, is my skin pregnant? What the fuck? But yeah, we made a video yesterday and it was talking about how TikTok was supposed to get banned. Apparently, they might put a pause on that, which I'm hoping they do so I can, like, you know, have time to figure things out. But listen.
It's a dream come true. Are you nice? Are you a nice possum? Are you nice? He don't look too nice, but he's kind of nice. He think he's scary. Okay, he might be a little scary. Okay, he's a little scary, I'm not gonna lie. Look at him teethies. Oh, don't fall. Well, you look like you're about to fall, buddy. You're falling. Do you actually bite, though? He's kind of sweet. He don't bark, no bite, so far. He don't bark, no bite. He don't bark, no bite, isn't that right? His breath be yeah, your breath. I'm sorry if that offended you, but your breath is kicking, guy. Your breath do be stinking. Oh, I'm not so bad now. Oh, yep, I'm kind of the bad guy. God damn, your breath stinks. You stink.
It's only in the USA that I know where moms, not even like men, but moms will go up to like any sort of animal they see and start petting it. Like, y'all mom be kind of brave, I'm not gonna lie. I remember one of my exes, her mom used to love bear, like a lot of bears. I'm like, dude, those shits will like murder you. But like, nah, she'd be like, I can't wait to see a bear. I'm gonna go up to it and pet it. I'm just like, you're gonna pet a bear? You're bugging. You're bugging. I don't care if it's a black bear, a grizzly bear, an orange bear, a pink bear. I'm not going up to that. That's just me personally. Someone in the comments of that video went, imagine being terrified and then the perceived threat starts petting you, lol. Literally.
These are some of the most terrifying places on Earth. First up, the Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. This has been called the most haunted prison in America. This abandoned prison in Philadelphia was known for locking people up for 23 hours in a day with only a small window in the ceiling for light. This caused many prisoners to go insane. Some people who visited this prison have heard ghostly voices coming from inside the walls. Next, this place is literally called the door to hell. It's a giant hole in the ground that has been burning non-stop since 1971. Some say scientists were drilling a hole which caused an explosion, but if you're brave enough to visit the door to hell, you still can. Last, we have Nagoro Village in Japan. Imagine you're in a small village, but all the people have been replaced by dolls. In Nagoro Village, there's about 20 people living there, but over 300 life-size dolls. They're placed all over the village as if they're living people. There's even dolls sitting in classrooms of abandoned schools. This can be really creepy. Follow for more.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. When you first see this photo, you may not think much of it. The young guy in the photo looks pretty normal. But this is actually 17-year-old Jeff Franklin in the back of a police car. This photo was taken immediately after he was arrested for brutally beating his parents to death with a sledgehammer. He also critically wounded 3 of his younger siblings. This picture at a beach looks like your average vacation photo. But this image was found on the lost camera of 2 people who were swept away by a tsunami moments after this picture was taken, meaning that everybody in this photo died just minutes later.
You're not the victim in this offense. The victim of this offense is the child.
That's where I'm confused.
That's what we are talking.
The man you just saw in that video was Joshua A. Richardson. He's from Connecticut and he was convicted of molesting his own nephew. So Joshua frequently looked after his 9-year-old nephew and his sister, and at one point the 9-year-old began to tell his mother that Uncle Josh had touched him in his private areas. Now, as it turns out, this boy's mother had gone to the police in the past, years prior, to allege the same things, that this guy had been touching her own son. Now, I don't know why the mother kept having him watch over her son. That's a whole different thing to discuss. But Josh was eventually arrested, tried for these crimes, found guilty. But as you can see in that sickening interrogation footage, he puts all the blame on the young child. If you watch the full clip, it's incredibly disturbing. He states he was confused. The young boy was sending him mixed signals. Now, let's keep in mind, this child was 9 years old. In my opinion, someone like this should be locked up and the key should be thrown away. They should never be out of prison. But as we all know with the American justice system, I'm sure that this guy will be out in a year or two back in his community, able to target, once again, whoever he wants to.
What is the craziest thing that someone's confessed to on their deathbed? Well, a deathbed confession made this year solved a 20-year-old cold case. And this is coming from the Heart Starts Pounding podcast episode that's all about cold cases that were solved this year. So this year in West Virginia, a man named Larry Webb was dying. And before he died, he called a nurse over and said he needed to get it off his chest that he killed a woman and her daughter back in 2000. It turns out that back then, a woman named Susan Carter and her 10-year-old daughter Alex were living with Larry while Susan was in a custody battle with Alex's father. And one day they just disappeared, but because they were together when they disappeared, police assumed that Susan just ran away with her daughter. But Larry confirmed that that's not what happened. The story he gave on his deathbed is that one day he came home to see that Susan was stealing money from him, and so he shot her. And then panicking, he wanted to get rid of all the witnesses, and that included Alex, her daughter. And to me, the craziest thing in all of this is that Larry had really bad dementia, so when he gave this confession, they weren't really convinced that it was true. But the day after he died, both of their remains were found in his backyard. If you want to hear more on that story and other cold cases that were solved this year, check out the Cold Cases That Were Solved This Year episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
The murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, also known as the Delphi case, has finally been solved, with someone being sentenced for the girls' murder. Richard Allen, who is believed to be the bridge guy, has been handed a whopping 130 years sentence for the murder of the girls. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this case, back in February of 2017, the girls went on a hiking trail and ended up not coming home, but they ended up filming a man that was looking really suspicious on the trail, and they even got a snippet of his voice. But despite this, the case remained completely unsolved. No one had any idea, but police were also really tight-lipped on what had happened to the girls. Like, their cause of death remained unidentified and all that kind of stuff. But during the trial, it's revealed that the girls' cause of death, they had their throats cut. One of the girls was found fully clothed and the other one wasn't. As well as their bodies were found with an arrangement of twigs near them to kind of make it look like some kind of ritual. But what tied Richard Allen to this crime scene, because there was no DNA, there was no nothing like that, there was simply a bullet casing that hadn't been fired from a gun, but it had been like kind of cycled in and then disposed of. And that bullet matched the exact handgun that Richard Allen owned, as well as the clothes that were seen in the iPhone video footage. These clothes here were found in his home. The jury actually deliberated for about 3 or 4 days until they came up with their verdict. And he was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to 2 65-year sentences for each of the girls.
So this man over here decided to transition into a woman so that he can avoid going to a man's prison. If for some reason you don't think this is messed up, I don't know what to tell you. In 2016 and 2019, a 31-year-old Adam Graham, who was first a man, attacked and armed 2 women. Adam claimed to have gender issues since the age of 4, but he only started transitioning in 2020 after he was charged. He changed his name from Adam to Isla, and now he's serving time in a women's prison in Scotland. So you're telling me that a man who was charged and found guilty of the RAPE of 2 women was put in a facility filled with women? To me, it's just alarming how no one thought that this would be a safety concern for a woman, especially because of what he was charged with. Someone make it make sense.
That's got to be one of the world's biggest scams. Like, that dude just scammed the justice system. Because it's like me being like, you know what? I want to box as a woman. Like, obviously, I'm going to beat all the women boxers. Like, naturally, males are just stronger than women.
One of the world's biggest scams happens to you every single day, and there's a 99% chance you fall for it every time. When's the last time you went out to eat and you actually looked at the price of things? I'm not talking about the price of the food, I'm talking about the price of the tip. Some restaurants have figured out a pretty genius way to steal more money from the customer, all while the customer has a smile on their face. Here's how it works. Once you're done eating, the server will come by and drop off your bill, and that's where you'll put your card on the table. The server will then take your card, go pay for your meal, and then come back with a receipt. Once you have your receipt, you'll see something like this, or like this, or this. See, what some of these restaurants aren't telling you is the 15, 20, 25% number they put on the receipt is not actually the right amount. They know almost 100% of you are not going to pull out your phone and double check their math, so they'll inflate these prices by about 5 to 10%. From what I read, you can't blame the server for this because any of the extra money that's added from the 20% tip just goes into the manager's pocket.
I just got done reading an entire report on this stuff. There are more companies doing this than I actually thought, and I know for a fact I have fallen for this. So the question is, how many times have we all fallen for this?
I can gladly say I probably fell for that once or twice, but realistically, I never actually go based off of that. I go based off of how the server actually treats us and like what she or he does for us. I never see like, oh, 15%. Okay, I'm gonna put the exact number. I'd be like, man, $5. That's what you get in the game.
So we know that the real story of The Little Mermaid is super disturbing. In the original Hans Christian Andersen story, once she's a person, she can't turn back into a mermaid. If she doesn't get the prince, she'll die. But her sisters find out that if she can spill the prince's blood, she'll be able to turn back into a mermaid. So they do what any sisters would do. They sell their hair for a dagger so that she can stab the prince. But in the end, she can't bring herself to do it, so she jumps off of a boat and disintegrates into sea foam. So it makes sense that Disney had to change that, but Disney's had to change a ton of other very disturbing details in their other movies. And just a reminder that if you have a dark curiosity, you'll love the podcast. In the original Cinderella, she doesn't get a dress from her fairy godmother. No, in the original tale, there is a tree growing next to her mother's grave, and Cinderella cries so hard over the tree that her tears water it. The tree gifts her a dress as a thank you. And then later, when the evil stepsisters are trying on the glass slipper, they realize it doesn't fit their big feet and they chop off parts of their feet. And then they go to the prince like, look at the shoes fit, and he sees that bloody mess and he's like, they absolutely do not. So a bunch of seagulls come and pluck their eyeballs out. That's all obviously terrible, but the original Mulan might be one of the worst ones. I'm gonna do part 2 for that though.
I was trying to analyze that story and I have no clue what was just going on.
This is maybe the scariest urban legend I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. Back in the 1970s, there was this terrifying fun house in Long Beach, California called The Laugh in the Dark. And there was always this urban legend that all the mannequins inside were fake, except for one. Also, mind you, this is what this week's episode is about, so if you don't want spoilers, just listen to the episode. This urban legend came to be because there was one mannequin inside that just looked wrong. All of the other ones looked fake, but this one in particular looked way too human. And a bunch of the kids also said the area that the mannequin was in just smelled really, really bad. So a few years go by, and one day a film crew comes in and is using Laugh in the Dark for a film set. The director's lining up a shot, and he just doesn't like the way this one mannequin looks in frame. So he goes over to a crew member and he's like, hey, can you just move this out of the shot? So the crew member goes over and starts moving the mannequin when its arm pops off. And inside of the mannequin's arm is human bone. The kids had been totally right. The mannequin was a mummified body. There's so much more to this story, like who the person was and how they got there, and I talk about the whole thing this week on the episode.
I'm actually really surprised that no one smelled that, because I don't think you guys understand, like, dead bodies do not smell great. Maybe if they're mummified, maybe they don't smell as much, but I know that dead bodies do not smell good. Don't ask me how I know, I just know.
A killer clown was just released from prison in Florida. This case dates back to May 26, 1990, when 40-year-old Marlene Warren opened her front door. In front of her was a clown holding balloons and a basket of flowers. Marlene stated, "How nice," before the clown fatally shot her in the mouth, then calmly walked away. Authorities suspected 26-year-old Sheila Keene for years, who was having an affair with the victim's husband, Michael. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence to convict her. 12 years later, Michael and Sheila wed in Las Vegas, moved to Tennessee, and started running this burger joint called the Purple Cow. They lived happily as if nothing happened, and Sheila even had the audacity to dress up as a clown one year. But in 2014, Florida authorities received a grant that allowed them to reopen the case. Advances in DNA technology allowed them to test a brown hair at the crime scene. It belonged to Sheila Keene, who was finally arrested in 2017 and pleaded not guilty. But after 7 years in jail, prosecutors gave her a deal in April of 2023. In exchange for pleading guilty to second-degree murder, she received a 12-year sentence. A Florida law allowed credit for good behavior, and that is why she was released on November 2nd of this year.
to a deathbed confession, a nearly 24-year-old cold case was closed this week when the bodies of a missing girl and her mother were found. 10-year-old Natasha Alex Carter and her mother Susan disappeared from their home in Beckley, West Virginia in August 2000. But at first, police initially reported that Alex may have been abducted by her mother. In a press release from December 2021 about the case, the FBI Pittsburgh said, quote, "At the time of their disappearance, Susan Carter and Alex's father were having a custody dispute, and Alex moved in with her mother and mother's new husband," which it's not confirmed that it was actually her mother's new husband, but they moved in, and then not long after that, Susan and Alex disappeared. But while it was initially suspected as a parental abduction by Susan, after the two remained missing, an investigation into other possibilities ensued, but unfortunately, the case went cold. In 2021, the FBI reopened the cold case and started looking into the man Susan and Alex were living with, Larry Webb. Searches of his home were done in 2022 and 2023, and they found a bullet embedded in the wall of what was Alex's bedroom. The bullet was tested for DNA, and it confirmed that blood on it belonged to Alex. In October 2023, Larry Webb was indicted on first-degree murder charges for Alex's death, despite Alex and Susan's bodies never being found. Due to his deteriorating health, though, Webb was not arrested until April 12, 2024, but since then he was being held without bond. On Monday, he had a medical episode, after which, in a, quote, come to Jesus moment on his deathbed, he confessed to authorities what he had done. Webb claimed that on August 8, 2000, he had gotten into an argument with Susan over money. He said he was missing some cash and believed that she had taken it and spent it. The argument escalated and he shot her, and then he ended up shooting Alex so there would be no witnesses. Webb then wrapped their bodies in bed linens and placed them in the basement that night. Over the next 2 nights, he dug a shallow grave in the woods on his property, eventually burying them in his clothes and then walking free for the next 20 years. On April 22, 2024, Larry Webb died at Mount Olive Correctional Complex, and 6 hours later, Susan and Alex's remains were found at his property in Beckley. Unfortunately, now that Webb is dead, he cannot be charged in connection to their deaths. At least now they have been found and can be properly laid to rest. Alex's father, Rick Lafferty, said after the discovery, quote, "It's kind of a sad day, but also a happy day because I can bring my baby home." Rest in peace, Alex and Susan.
Yeah, it's kind of like, keep doing that. It's kind of like the first story like I'm saying, like I feel like it was just resting on his soul because apparently he had dementia, and then bro was just like, yeah, dude, I did that to them. It's crazy, but at least, you know what I'm saying, at least he finally admitted it. Maybe that will save him, I guess.
This is the reason why you stay away from haunted houses. A Japanese paranormal investigator by the name Gashan explored a house that locals feared and called it Ju-on's house. As Gashan explores the house, he hears footsteps upstairs. Worried homeless people might be up there, he attempts to reason with them by letting them know he'll leave if they're up there. He doesn't get a response back, so he carefully explores the upstairs rooms and makes a horrifying discovery. He finds Buddha's altars in the first room, and in the second room, he finds an old knife which disturbs him. Shortly after entering that room, he hears a bell somewhere in the house. As he explores the house for 30 more minutes, he can't find the source of the sound, so he finally decides to make his way out. And when he goes downstairs, this happens. He unknowingly records what looks like someone's legs swinging above the stairs he just went through. He didn't even realize it until looking at the video.
That dude is brave. He went in there all alone too. Like, what? Dude, when I went into a haunted asylum, I had to bring my 3 homies. If I did that alone, I would have just jumped through the window, I swear to God. Check out for that video. It's coming soon, I promise.
The girl you are looking at has no idea that she's about to take the most unexplainable photo in history. This is 5-year-old Elizabeth, and this is her father Jim, who instructed her to sit down so that way he could take a picture of her in her brand new dress. He took a total of 3 pictures while his wife and his other daughter stood right beside him. When the photos were developed, Jim found on the second photo there's a large humanoid figure standing behind him that resembles a spacesuit. The couple came out and said, "We were in an empty field, there was no sort of bystanders, and I think we would have known if somebody was standing behind our daughter." Jim had the photo examined by Kodak Lab, and they said the anomaly in the picture is original negative, which means this thing behind her is physically present there, like it's real. This picture was taken in 1964. Obviously, there was no sort of Photoshop, but if you think that's the craziest part, listen to this. This all made headlines, and Kodak Labs offered $1 million to anybody who could disprove this photo. And to this day, it has never been paid out. More recently, people have been saying they have debunked this by saying it's really her mother standing behind her. And I don't know, her mother was wearing wearing a blue dress that day, and they basically said the overexposure from the light made it look white. Here are the pictures side by side, and you kind of let me know what you guys think. So is this Jim's wife in the background, or is this something we've never seen? Make sure to like and follow for tomorrow's video.
This is the scary story about the peephole, and this story is absolutely disturbing. A 15-year-old girl named Donna lived with her father in a very small house. Ever since her mother died, Donna had depended on her dad for literally everything. One morning, Donna's father was leaving for a business trip and he told her he wouldn't be back until later that night. And with that, he kissed Donna on the cheek and left. Later that day, Donna got home from school and did some homework and then relaxed and watched some TV. The clock then struck midnight and she noticed her father still wasn't back. So Donna decided to just go to bed. That night, Donna had a dream. She found herself standing on the edge of a busy highway. She then looked across the highway and saw a familiar figure standing there. It was her father, and his hands were cupped around his mouth trying to yell something to her. But Donna couldn't figure out what her dad was saying. She also saw that his eyes looked very sad, and he seemed to be desperately trying to communicate with her. She could barely make out the words he was saying, but it sounded like he was saying, "Don't open the door." Suddenly, Donna woke up to a tapping noise. Then suddenly, somebody rang the doorbell. Donna then got out of bed, got dressed, and then scrambled down to the front door. She then looked through the peephole and saw her father's face outside. He was staring directly at her and the doorbell was still ringing. "Okay, hold on, I'm coming," she shouted. She pulled back the deadbolt and was about to unlock the door when she suddenly stopped. She then looked through the peephole again and noticed there was something very off about her father's expression. His eyes were wide open and he looked very terrified. She then slid the deadbolt back into place and said, "Dad, did you forget your keys?" But the doorbell just kept ringing. "Dad, answer me," she said, but the doorbell continued to ring. "Dad, please, I need you to answer me. Is there somebody else out there with you?" But there was no answer and the doorbell continued to ring. Donna then yelled at the top of her lungs, "I'm not opening this door until you answer me." The doorbell continued to ring and her father did not answer her desperate cries. For the rest of the night, Donna sat in the corner next to the door crying and helplessly listening to the doorbell ringing over and over again. She then eventually fell asleep, and in the morning when she woke up, she noticed it was very quiet, so she got up and went over to the peephole. She then looked through it and saw her father still standing there staring. She then opened the door and was confronted with a sight that filled her with absolute horror. Her father's severed head was hanging from a nail above the door, and there was a note attached to the doorbell, and in weird sloppy handwriting it read, "You are a very clever girl."
I'm not gonna lie, that's a really strange story, but I was laughing because in the middle of that, he said, "It filled her with absolute horror." And then in the captions, it says absolute horror. And I was just like, that's hilarious.
The search starts now. On my way to go meet a cadaver dog team.
Layla Santinello's story is one that I think of often. For 15 months, she has been missing from Kingsport, Tennessee, leaving behind almost no trace. She was last seen on June 27th, 2023, wearing a white tank top, black leggings, and had no personal belongings on her. Layla would not disappear for this long, especially considering that she has a daughter of her own. I've said it before, I think foul play is involved, but we won't know anything until she is located. Recently, her mother, Jennifer Santinello, had posted a video raising money for cadaver dogs, which would be crucial to the investigation, and her goal was met. I am certain there will be a day that we know where Layla Santinello is. Until then, there is a $7,000 reward for anyone that can lead police to her current location, and please consider following her mother, Jennifer Santinello, and donating to her GoFundMe to help fund the investigation. Share this video, and if you have any information, please call 1-800-TBI-5.
The amount of water that AI uses is astonishing. According to a report by the Washington Post, if you ask ChatGPT to write you a 100-word email, it uses 519 milliliters. And I know for a fact, some of you are asking it to write you 3 novels a day. And think about it, just ChatGPT alone has 200 million users. So if each of them got it to write 200 words, that uses 207 million liters of water per day. And that's not even considering all of the other companies that use AI now, like Meta, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and the use of AI is growing by the day.
I didn't even know AI uses water. That's interesting. I mean, I guess it's a better fuel source than like gasoline or petroleum or something, but hopefully AI doesn't suffocate our water needs and then stifle us, that we can never drink water ever again. Imagine that was one of the ways AI in the future decides to control the human race by just taking our water for themselves. That'd be crazy.
Okay, major breaking news. There are now reports that TikTok plans an immediate shutdown on Sunday, meaning that even if you have the app downloaded on your phone, you may not be able to access it entirely once this ban comes into effect. Let's go through this. So the initial report comes out from a news outlet called The Information, and they say that sources familiar with TikTok's plans say that people attempting to open the app on Sunday will see a pop-up message directing them to a website with information about the ban. The report also says that TikTok plans to give users an option to download all of their data so they can take it with them. Now, the law potentially coming into effect doesn't mandate TikTok to go out this way. So why would they? Well, what the report says is that what the law does explicitly prevent is US-based hosting services from supporting the app. That includes cloud providers like Oracle, which currently host TikTok US users' data. They say that without access to these hosting services, TikTok would face significant operational challenges in maintaining its platform with the United States. And while they could consider migrating TikTok's data to servers in China, they say that that could introduce latency issues which would be significant. Oh, I mean, honestly, man, imagine if this is the way that TikTok actually goes out, how are we even going to talk to each other about how insane this is? Hopefully we find out something from the Supreme Court today, so I'll keep you updated.
As the days go on, the ban is getting more and more real. A lot of people thought the government was bluffing this and all that, and maybe they still are, but like, I don't know, it's just weird to me that the people that are behind this, the congressmen or whatever, they see TikTok as like a real threat when we have other things in our country. When I say our country, I mean the US, the other things in the US that are way more devastating to us than just TikTok. It just makes you really think, like, what's really going on?
Of trying TikTok alternatives until it gets banned, starting with the #1 most downloaded app in the US right now, Xiaohongshu, aka Red Note. Now, if the government thought TikTok was Chinese, they are in for a shock with this one, because en masse Americans are now flocking to an app which, unlike TikTok, is fully owned and operated by China. How's that for petty? But can it be our next home? Let's start with the good, and then we'll move to the bad. It's kind of like a cool mix between Instagram with the Discover page and TikTok with the FYP. It's one of China's most popular social media apps, and because of that, the algorithm is pretty damn good. Most of the videos it gives me are in English from TikTok refugees. Yes, that's what they're calling themselves now. Chinese people on the app have been very welcoming and are even teaching Americans Mandarin. Your profile looks pretty damn cool. It has a shop, the aesthetic is super clean, and it's become more than an app. It's become a rebellion. But now, for the bad. Setting up your profile and using some features can be pretty tricky because a lot of it is still in Mandarin. I mean, Lord knows what terms and conditions I agreed to because I can't read it. Only about half of the comments are in English. And for the people directly moving from TikTok, there's just simply not enough large English-speaking creators on the app yet. So the content doesn't really have that addictive one more video feeling. Overall, the new home probability, 6.5 out of 10, but plus 2 points for the valiant middle finger to the government. However, the search continues. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I actually see it everywhere on TikTok. It's this new app called Red Note. I mean, it's not new. It's just Chinese based, which is super ironic, right? It's super ironic and petty that the American people would go from an app that is kind of US based, but like the father company is China, to a literal Chinese app. Super ironic and super petty by us people, but it's very funny. I didn't download the app yet because, you know what I'm saying, he literally just said that he can't even read the terms and conditions because it's all like Chinese or Mandarin. So I don't think I'm going to. Like, we're just gonna see what happens with TikTok. If it blows, it blows. If it stays, it stays, you know. If you have the Red Notes app, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments.
Hacks that can actually save your life. Always keep a pack of gum with you. Gum can help relieve stress and suppress your appetite during emergencies. And it can also be used as a glue substitute. Remember the survival rules of threes. First, you can only survive for around 3 minutes without air, and only 3 days without water. And finally, 3 weeks without food. This will help you rank your needs in case of emergencies. If you're walking to your car in a dark place, have your keys ready in your hand. It will be much easier for you to get in your car quickly, and if you're attacked, you can use your keys as a weapon. And don't forget, no matter how thirsty you are, do not eat large amount of snow. Too much cold ice in your stomach can cause you to die from hypothermia, so melt the ice before drinking it.
When police arrived at Zoraida and Alberto's home, they discovered a horrific scene. Zoraida and Alberto and their 2 young sons, who were only 10 and 7 years old, as well as their 3 dogs, they were all brutally murdered. Who would want this entire family gone? Zoraida and her family's death was part of a complicated and disturbing plot involving Zoraida's affair with a man named Nathaniel Huey Jr. But here's the thing, Nathaniel wasn't the only person involved in this disturbing and evil plot. Zoraida and Nathaniel met at work. They knew each other for about a year and started an affair in May 2023. Zoraida was married to her husband Alberto. They had 2 kids. Nathaniel, on the other hand, was in a 10+ year relationship with a woman named Ermelinda Palomo. For some time, they thought that no one knew about their affair, but they were wrong. At some point during their affair, Nathaniel's fiancée, Ermelinda, found out about what was going on, but instead of her completely losing it and confronting him, she kept it a secret. But she would come up with this crazy and disturbing plot to get revenge. And I'm not talking about revenge against Nathaniel necessarily. She targeted Zoraida and her family. Ermelinda began creating various social media accounts and pretended to be someone from the Mexican cartel. I know, this is crazy, psychotic, and it's really difficult to believe, but this is just what was going on.
And this is why I tell people never to really cheat. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you're gonna do some stuff, just like leave the relationship first, or at least like make sure you let the person know what type of timing you're on, because when you're in that heartbroken situation, male or female, you're in that really high emotional state, you don't know what could happen.
The horror hidden in the photo. A photo of 2 sisters. Where did this nun come from? A couple enjoying their vacation. The girl in the red lost her footing while posing for a picture and fell into Niagara Falls.
People are saying your favorite celebrities are hanging out with a witch. As you can see, this woman is pretty friendly with a lot of celebrities. A$AP Rocky, Kim Kardashian, Kanye, even the Migos. But why are they so deeply connected with this woman? Her name is Michelle Lemmy, and it says she's a fashion designer, film producer, etc. But she's also married to Rick Owens, who is known as the Dark Lord of fashion. Look, here she is even wearing his head as a purse. Oh, and she's very close to Marina Abramovich, whose art is a little demonic. I mean, she once threw a party with a human-shaped cake. I kid you not. Look at this. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Is this just a connection for fashion, or is there something more darker going on? And make sure you guys hit that follow button, because my next video will blow your mind.
Baffling Butterfly Effects Part 4. In 1928, a man from London left his home for a 2-week vacation at the beach. When he returned home, he noticed a horrific smell, but he didn't know where it was coming from. He eventually found an old piece of cheese that was covered in mold. He examined the cheese under a microscope, and he noticed that there were no bacteria around the mold. That mold led to the discovery of antibiotics, which have saved over 200 million lives.
Strangest addictions people have. Nicole eats drywall. Jennifer eats the foam inside of beds and couch cushions. Kino eats toilet paper. Bria eats sand. Teresa eats 2 pounds of rock a day. Cassie eats her late husband's ashes to mourn him.
I thought my sugar addiction was bad. Hell no. Honestly, I'd rather have a sugar addiction than someone than eating drywall or my dead relative's ashes.
Forbidden places that you can never visit. Snake Island is an island off of the coast of Brazil filled with deadly snakes. Rising sea levels caused this piece of land to become an island, allowing for the snakes to flourish in their own environment. There are now up to 5 snakes every square meter, and you are not allowed to go here. In Svalbard, Norway, there is a global seed vault, aka the Doomsday Vault. It is the world's seed bank, storing samples of crops from all over the world just in case of a global catastrophe. The tomb of Qin Shi Huang in China holds an army of warriors made of clay. It protects the burial spot of the first emperor of China who died in 210 BC, and we only discovered this tomb in 1974. Poveglia Island in Italy was used to exile hundreds of thousands of victims of the plague. It is said to be one of the most haunted places on Earth, and a dark local legend says that 50% of the soil is made up of human remains.
This is the scary story about the school trip. An entire class of 6th graders went on a school trip one day. Everybody was taking pictures with their phones and cameras and having such a great time. But when they all got back to school, they started looking through all the photos they took, when suddenly one of the girls screamed, "Oh my god, what is that?" In the picture, one of the boys in the class was sitting on the bus, and nothing seemed strange about the photo until you looked at his reflection in the window. His face in the reflection looked like it was yellow and bulging, and completely mutating. Also, there was a white floating figure behind him in the reflection. Everybody turned the photo upside down and realized it was a human skull, and it was horrific. And when the boy saw the photo of himself, he immediately burst into tears and had a panic attack. The teacher then took the boy to the nurse's office, and the principal banned everybody from speaking about the strange photo ever again. And to make this even scarier, 7 days later, the boy died from a brain tumor. The photo is said to be on the internet somewhere, but I don't recommend looking for it.
Scary humans recorded by cameras.
Morbid Facts, Part 446. An X-ray revealed that a 300-year-old Mexican statue of Jesus has real human teeth. They're believed to have been donated by worshippers as a way to get closer to the religious figure. After killing his girlfriend with a hatchet, 30-year-old Philadelphia man William Kemmler became the first person to be executed by electric chair. While it was supposed to demonstrate the effectiveness and humanity of electrocution, the punishment went horribly wrong. They underestimated the amount of electricity needed to quickly and painlessly end a man's life. So Kemmler was still conscious after the first shock. When physicians noticed he was still breathing in agony, they hit him with a second shock that was more powerful, causing his entire body to convulse violently and start smoking. Kemmler ended up with bubbling skin, melted eyes, and a foaming mouth, and the entire room reeked of burning flesh as many spectators ended up passing out from the horror. But despite this, the electric chair would still continue to be used for more than 100 years afterwards.
This mysterious creature was captured on a trail cam. At first, it looks a lot like a wolf, but looking more closely, the front legs appear to have elongated fingers, unlike any species of dog or wolf. The face, in particular, the nose and teeth of the creature appear almost human-like. Could this be a rare sighting of the mythological creature known as a werewolf? In folklore, a werewolf is an individual who can shape-shift into a wolf, either purposely or after being placed under a curse or a bite from another werewolf, with the transformation occurring on the night of a full moon.
Terrifier 4 will be the last movie we ever see Art the Clown in. That's what everybody online is saying, and you guys could not be more wrong. Damien Leone coming out yesterday saying, look, I don't have a definitive answer on how many movies we're gonna make, but I personally want to make 1 to 2 more. Rest assured, the ending will be epic and terrifying. Now look fam, we've seen this before. We know this all too well. On top of the fact that Terrifier 3 made over $18 million made on a $2 million budget. I don't ever want people to look at Terrifier as a money grab, but as long as the movies are pumping and doing insanely well at the box office, the saga ain't ending. And that's not a hit at them at all, because I absolutely love the franchise and I love this movie. But all in all, you have to think about it. When money is involved, things will be made. As I said, we've seen this before. My only fear is that Art the Clown is going to turn into a glorified poster boy, pretty much like Jason and Michael. We got way too many movies. They all continue to overlap with reboots and this person making it and that person making it, and in my personal opinion, made kind of a mockery of the whole entire franchise. Granted, some movies are good, some of the reboots are good, but everybody puts their own twist on it. We don't need another twist on Art the Clown. We do not need another person playing Art the Clown. David Howard Thornton is Art the Clown. If anybody else ever plays Art the Clown, it's not going to be the same. Damien Leone's the director, no one else. I'm hoping Art the Clown doesn't turn into another Jason and Michael, but it might happen.
Still never watched Terrifier 3, but I had a couple of friends that told me it was really good. If you've seen Terrifier 3, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments.
This couple in California would set up bait bikes, wait until somebody would steal it, and then beat them up with baseball bats and record it and post it onto YouTube. This happened all the way back in 2020, and they really did not like bike thieves, apparently. This happened in Fresno, California, and they would brag about it to their neighbors. Even crazier, they wouldn't even bother to call the police after they assaulted them or when they caught the thieves. They really just wanted to beat them up with these metal baseball bats. Apparently they were victims of break-ins and home invasions and then theft. They then decided to take the law into their own hands because they thought nothing was really getting done for them. Now, obviously, the YouTube videos have since been taken down. That's kind of how they got caught, because of YouTube and the bragging to their neighbors. 4 victims have come forward, but the police say there's probably more. Because honestly, who's gonna admit, yeah, I was stealing a bike and then I got beat up? Both suspects were charged and put into jail, but they bailed out after. The neighbors did admit there's also a high crime rate in that neighborhood for some reason. Neighbors that just moved there said their car was broken into like the first day they were there. But let me know what you guys think about this story. Were they right to do this or not?
Most people believe these 3 things will save your life. They don't. Let's pretend that you're on vacation with some friends in this cabin, and you hear on the news that there's actually a killer on the loose in the woods surrounding your cabin. What do? Instinctively, you're gonna wanna ditch your friends and just start running into the woods. No shoes, no weapons, no cell phone, no sense of where you're going. But that's actually a terrible idea because the killer is in the woods, and you'd be putting yourself more in harm's way, not less. So you decide to stay put, and then you remember that your friend drove you all to the cabin in their brand new Lamborghini that was working like 5 minutes ago. So why can't you just pile into that and drive away to safety? The problem with that is anytime you're in a cabin in the woods and there's a killer on the loose around your cabin, even if it's a brand new car, it's not gonna start. So don't even go out and try it. You're just sitting in the cabin doing nothing when all of a sudden you feel like someone could be watching you and you wanna turn around and make sure no one is. Don't turn around, because if you do, the killer will magically appear behind you.
Forbidden live streams. Hi, my name is Ethan, and we're about to be talking about a dark topic. The first live stream ever was made in 1993, and the first crime ever live streamed was in 2008, and that was the Akihabara massacre. But as you guys know, being that the dark web was made in 2000, I'm sure that there was other crimes live streamed long before 2008. Hundreds of crimes featuring murders, R-word, trafficking, SA were all streamed via YouTube, dark web, Facebook, Instagram, and so many more. What is even more chilling about these live streams is some sites, more on the dark web, have an actual membership program, and that's basically where people pay to watch others just be utterly tortured. Needless to say, live streaming as a whole can be a great platform unless it gets into the wrong person's hands.
Hana Kobayashi went missing when she was traveling from Hawaii to LA just last month. She was scheduled to be on her connecting flight on November 8th in New York, however she missed it. Days later, after she sent some disturbing texts to her family, she went missing. She went completely off the grid. The weird thing is, right after that, police got a footage of her crossing into the border into Mexico. This is 125 miles away from Los Angeles. And this happened on November 12th, so 4 days after she supposedly missed her flight. A missing persons report was filed. Her family went searching for her, as well as authorities and volunteers. Her father flew all the way from Hawaii to LA to join these search efforts. Her father was then found dead in a parking lot in Los Angeles. It was confirmed that he did take his own life. Apparently, the stress of losing his daughter Hannah got to him so badly. Hannah was then located about a month later in Mexico after going off the grid. Police are now calling her disappearance as a voluntary disappearance. However, because of this voluntary disappearance and because of the lack of communication between her and her family, this stressed everybody out, especially her father, and this led to the circumstances we're in now. In this case, a simple text from her would have probably saved her father's life if she just told them she was going off the grid. Let me know your thoughts about this story. People are calling for her to be charged on this. Do you agree with that?
Disney princesses without makeup. Elsa. Jasmine. Snow White. Tiana. Mulan. Pocahontas. Cinderella. Ariel. Belle.
When they showed Snow White, I was like, where did her eyebrows go? It was like 1 second her eyebrows were there, then the next second they were just gone. Like, what the hell? And how does Ariel have makeup underwater? Like, does she have like waterproof makeup? Is that even a thing? Water resistant makeup?
But with the most unusual skin color. 1. Lola Chuo. Lola Chuil is a teen with very dark skin and striking doll-like features. 2. Nastya Zhidkova. Nastya Zhidkova is a Russian model with albinism who has very pale skin and hair. 3. Connie Chu. Connie Chu is the first albino fashion model and is originally from Hong Kong. 4. Ralph Souffrant. Ralph Souffrant is a model from Haiti with very dark skin and natural freckles. 5. Koudia Diop. Koudia Diop is a model from Senegal who has extremely dark skin and is called the Melanin Goddess. 6. Winnie Harlow. Winnie Harlow is a Canadian model with vitiligo, which causes white patches on her skin. 7. Amina Ependieva. Amina Ependieva is a Russian girl with albinism and heterochromia, different colored eyes.
Plastic surgery gone way too far. Joe Megler is a 22-year-old from Germany. As he was shaving one day, he accidentally nicked his cheek. A trail of blood started rolling down, but instead of getting scared, he was inspired. You see, Joe was a huge fan of Batman and absolutely loved the Joker. So instead of putting a band-aid on the cut, he made it bigger. Little by little, he stretched it even bigger until eventually there was a hole in his cheek. Today, Joe does everyday things like brushing his teeth through the hole and even eats food through it. Subscribe if you think this is gross.
You know, when I'm sleeping sometimes, I'm like, I hope nothing ever flies into my mouth or ears or anything like that. With him, oh nah, there's gotta be a bunch of stuff that flies into his mouth when he's sleeping. Like a big hole in both. Like, you're bugging, dude. That's an interesting look, I'm not gonna lie.
She took her neighbor's life because he didn't like his Christmas gifts. Melissa Young was born in Perth, Australia in the late 1970s, and when she was a teenager, she would get bullied often for her cross-dressing, and this would lead her to drinking heavily. At the age of 26, Melissa transitioned in 2002, embracing her new identity. About a year later, she started working at a brothel in Edinburgh, Scotland. While working, she had a pattern of stealing not just from her clients, but her coworkers as well. Eventually, Melissa got fired and she was sentenced to 18 months in prison for shoplifting. During this time, she was dealing a lot with her addiction and she was just not doing well. On December 25th of 2013, Melissa made a call to emergency services claiming that her neighbor, Alan Williamson, was refusing to leave her home. Later that evening, she made a second call to emergency services and she admitted to stabbing Alan in her home. When police arrived to Melissa's home, they found her hands covered in blood and right behind the front door was Alan's lifeless body. In the kitchen, police had discovered the weapon that Melissa had used and Alan had suffered from 29 injuries. The following day, Melissa was examined by a doctor and she told that doctor that she was possessed, that she was hearing voices, she saw a bright light, she flipped and attacked Alan. She also stated that she was disgusted with her other neighbors and wanted to unalive all of them, and then she covered her mouth and said, "Oops, did I say too much?" Melissa then started to shift the blame onto Alan, stating that she had gave him a Christmas present of some shoes and a calendar, and by his reaction she could tell that he did not like them, and she claimed that if he would have just accepted the gifts, she would have never done this to him. In August of 2014, Melissa was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. She must serve at least 20 years in prison before she can apply for parole.
4 disturbing facts about your body. If your body's immune system finds out about your eyes, it will blind you. Yes, that is correct. Your eyes and your body have separate immune systems. And if for some reason your body's immune system discovers your eyes, it will attack them, sending you blind. You can get a condition called fatal familial insomnia. This is a condition where you cannot sleep for days and you begin to lose your mind bit by bit until you die. Your body is always fighting cancer. In your lifetime, your immune system destroys anywhere from 5 to 8 cancerous cells that do not self-destruct. Some cancers fool your immune system so they can grow and spread. If you have even a small brain trauma, your brain can reset, changing your likes, dislikes, and other aspects of your personality.
Yeah, that's scary to think about. That means if you fall or you get punched too hard in the freaking head, your whole personality could just... I wonder how many boxers, MMA people, or just fighters in general that like got into the ring and then everything about them just flipped.
Scariest videos on the internet, part 4. This is a famous statue that is said to be haunted. And someone caught its eyes moving on camera. What in the night of the museum is this?
Scary facts you wish you never knew.
There is a shack called the Devil's Toy Box in Louisiana,
And for some reason, people who go in lose their mind. Do you know the tingly feeling you get when you eat a pineapple? Well, that's because the pineapple is eating you. It has an enzyme called bromelain, and that enzyme eats meat, which you're made of. Now you can check if your phone activity is being monitored. Just click on Share, slide all the way to the end, click More. And if any apps appear before your contacts, you should delete it immediately. Sharks have been around for 420 million years, meaning they have survived all 4 big mass extinctions, making them older than dinosaurs, Mount Everest, and even some trees on this planet. The person who invented homework came up with the idea as a punishment for students.
You are a slave. Let me explain why. We are being controlled in this world. Everything we do, every move we make is remotely controlled by these people. Every human is born with the pineal gland. The pineal gland is known as the third eye or the sixth sense. It enhances your spiritual senses. It makes you analyze information faster. It makes you take the right decisions. It makes you sleep better, and much more. These people don't want your pineal gland to be activated because you become smarter and stronger. They deactivate your pineal gland using fluoride. They add fluoride in everyday necessities we consume. Drinking water has fluoride, and it's been proven that fluoride is cancerous. What is the first thing you do in the morning? Brush your teeth. Toothpaste contains fluoride. We are constantly shutting down this gland. Without this gland, we are more prone to weakness, staying up late, depression, and anger. Good news though, fluoride-free products exist.
I mean, there's also been proof that fluoride is actually really good for your teeth. I don't know about the drinking it part, like it being in water, although it is in water. Feels like there's just a lot of things to worry about nowadays. Like you got to worry about the water you drink, the food you eat, microplastics in this is in this, wrong injections in this, cancerous is in this, lead. Apparently there's lead in protein powder. It's like, bro, how do you get lead in 95% of protein powders? Like, I drink protein. I'm like, dude, when the hell was there lead in this? It's mostly in the plant-based protein. I might throw a video in a couple explaining that, because I saw that the other day. I was like, what the hell? Lead in protein powder? You're bugging. That's a lawsuit.
This is how people react when they are told how long they will be in prison. Jacob Matthew Morgan, sentenced to 137 years in prison. Smith Riley, sentenced to life in prison without parole. Cameron Herring, sentenced to 24 years in prison. They starved their 10-month-old baby. Sentenced to life in prison without parole. Dylan Shoemaker, sentenced to 985 years in prison. Nico Jenkins, sentenced to death.
Popular protein powders to the gym, where we asked Leslie and her clients to look at the labels and tell us which of them seemed the best and the worst.
You're looking at calories, protein, and carbs. And you're not necessarily looking at all the ingredients.
CleanLabelProject.org is a watchdog for consumers. In the past, they've tested baby food, baby formula, and pet food. So this time they bought 137 of Amazon's top-selling protein powders and sent them off to a lab. What they found was alarming: various toxins in your supplements.
Things like heavy metals, lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury, antibiotic residues, pesticide residues.
Vega chocolate protein and greens was one of the most popular, but it ranks among the worst for arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury. The study showed some of the dirtiest results were organic.
What we found is that plant-based protein powders had higher levels of arsenic as well as cadmium, which we think comes potentially from contaminated soil.
We've seen studies show many of these fillers and metabolic compounds have contributed to certain types of cancers.
Maysoon Hamadi is a dietitian.
There's really no safe way to validate what is in the nutritional supplements.
This is Biochem Vanilla Whey, and it was one of the healthiest. Testing showed no detectable levels of arsenic, BPA, lead, or mercury, and it was also one of the cleanest forms of cadmium.
When you look at the 5 cleanest products, all of them happen to be whey-based and vanilla-based.
All of the women were shocked with the results and are now second-guessing using protein powders.
My recommendation would be go natural. So use the eggs, use the dairy, use the meats.
So a spokeswoman from Vega told us they have not seen the raw data from the cleanlabel.org testing, but she said, quote, "We, however, want to reassure our consumers that we test every single lot of our Vega protein to ensure our products are safe, compliant, and nutrient dense and meet our high quality standards."
I mean, this happened to us. You went into our pantry and you said, wait a minute here, this made kind of the bad list. How do you know what's in the protein powder?
So one of ours in our pantry did actually make the list of the worst ones. So I told you to stop drinking it.
Right.
So for those of you wondering if yours is on the list, we put that link to the report that ranks 137 of the most popular. It's on our website, kshb.com. I suggest you go look at it before you drink another protein.
I didn't check out the list, and I actually might go check out the list after this video, but it was pretty much saying that like majority of the plant-based protein shakes had like a lot of the bad chemicals in it. So if you drink any type of plant-based protein shake, just make sure to look out and see if your protein is on the quote-unquote bad list.
This teacher was caught doing it with an 8th grade student, and apparently it was almost daily. The kid was 13 years old, and now she will serve 10 years in prison. This happened in Texas. The teacher behind me, her name is Alexandria Vera. She's 25 years old, and this 13-year-old got her pregnant. She stated the relationship happened in the Instagram DMs, and his family apparently approved of this relationship. The judge and the school district said that they want their teachers to teach students, not put their hands all over their students. She was originally going to get 30 years in prison, but the judge said, I don't think she's that bad, and gave her 10 years. Apparently this relationship blossomed in 2015 around summertime. The boy kept advancing, she kept denying, but eventually she gave in apparently. Prosecutors said based on evidence, they did it daily for 9 months straight. And apparently during the entire ordeal, to get away with this, she told her neighbors that the boy was her brother. And now it gets even weirder. She even moved his father in with her so she could pretend she was dating the father when in reality she was with the kid. This was kind of a mask. She was also paying for the family's groceries and phone bill. This kid literally had a sugar mama. Now, Alexandria Vera has a 6-year-old daughter that even called the 13-year-old kid her dad. What an interesting case. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're from Houston, Texas, did you hear about this case around you guys? As always, these videos are for informational purposes only. Once again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I definitely feel like she should have served life for this. She knew exactly what she was doing, but the court system was pretty lenient on her.
Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 15. So in part 14 of this series, I talked about the deadly monorail crash that killed a 21-year-old worker at Disney. This isn't the first time that this ride has taken someone's life. The first death occurred in 1966 during the park's annual grad night. Pictured here is 19-year-old Thomas Guy Cleveland. He attempted to sneak into the park on that night. He successfully managed to climb over the park's 16-foot high fence, and then he got onto the monorail tracks. But while on the track, the monorail train struck and killed him. It dragged his body 30 to 40 feet before stopping. More on this case in my next YouTube video. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Link in bio.
Imagine being told that you have to come up with $9 billion or face execution. Well, that is exactly what this woman is being told by a Vietnamese court right now. You see, earlier this year, Trong My Lan, who is a real estate tycoon and businesswoman, made global headlines after she was sentenced to death for committing one of the biggest frauds in global history. $44 billion. That's equivalent to roughly 9% of Vietnam's entire economy this year. Now, of the 44 total, she is accused of embezzling $12 billion, and the court ruled this week that if she can pay back 3/4, her death sentence will be reduced to life in prison. So the question now is, can she come up with $9 billion to literally save her life?
Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Please be seated, Mr. Gregg.
She looked like she was regretting her whole life in that moment. She was like, dude, why did I do that?
Did you pay $6 million for a banana? Well, someone did, and this jaw-dropping sale made people scratch their heads. I think we can all agree that we can call it the golden banana. That's right, a golden banana, because this rare fruit was auctioned off at Sotheby's in New York. But before you start Googling the nearest banana farm, let me clarify. This isn't your average potassium-packed snack. It was a piece of art. And guess what? The buyer was someone with deep pockets and a love for eccentric art, to the point that they don't mind spending this huge amount of money for a literal fruit. So, what do you get after spending this much money? Well, a banana with duct tape. Despite this, the price skyrocketed to a mind-blowing 6.2 million, and people on the internet lost it. And who was the lucky buyer? A savvy Chinese man who wasn't about to let anyone snatch away his golden prize. In the end, some say it's a statement. Others just want to know if the banana comes with a side of luxury dip. Sadly, no one knows.
Let's take a look at the three biggest differences between Eastern and Western dragons. First up, appearance. The Western dragon has 4 legs, wings, and armor-like scales, whereas the Eastern dragon, while still capable of flight, has no wings and often no limbs at all. They're also much larger, growing up to 100 feet or more. Number 2, abilities. Western dragons can breathe fire, fly, and are more intelligent than any mere mortal. But they're no match for the Eastern dragon, which possesses godlike powers such as the ability to grant wishes and control over the elements. And finally, perception. Western dragons are viewed as wild animals decimating noble knights and kingdoms, whereas Eastern dragons are viewed as deities equally deserving of our respect and fear.
Clips you need to see before you die. Part 6. Octopus unscrewing the lid of a vase from the inside. This is how a clam digs into sand. Vegetables in Alaska can reach gigantic sizes due to the 20 hours of sunlight they receive every day. This is how much a pumpkin has grown in 2 months.
So this cop says that he was actually abducted by aliens. One night in Argentina, a police officer named Sergio Pucheta requested for backup from his base over the radio. According to the other police officers, he sounded terrified, but before the transmission cut out, he managed to say that there was something strange in the area and that he was going to investigate. When the other police officers got there, though, he was nowhere to be found. But the strange thing is that his motorcycle was there on the side of the road, along with his service handgun, his radio, and his cell phone. They looked everywhere for him, and then they ended up finding some footprints. So they followed these footprints into this wooded area, and they noticed that the footprints started to grow farther and farther apart from each other. And then all of a sudden, they disappeared. The police officers were baffled, and a search team was called to look for the missing cop. They ended up finding him the next day, 12 miles away from the area of his initial disappearance. He was found by a local farmer on the side of the road, and he was completely traumatized. He was curled up in the fetal position. They took him to the hospital, and when he eventually calmed down, he told the other officers a terrifying account of what had happened to him. He said that when he got to the area that he went to investigate, he bumped into 2 strange humanoid beings with glowing red eyes. He said that one of these beings spoke to him telepathically and ordered him to disarm his weapon and disable his radio and cell phone. This is when Pucheta said that he got scared and he decided to make a run for it. He said that he ran as fast as he could, but as he started to run, he started to feel like he was floating. And that's all he remembered before finding himself on the side of the road. Even more terrifying is that after this whole event, Pucheta decided to do hypnotherapy. And after the hypnotherapy, he said that he remembered that he was indeed abducted by these beings. He says that he remembers being beamed up to an alien spaceship and that the walls were luminous and bright. And then he says that he remembers being placed on a table or bed. Unfortunately, for police officer Sergio Pucheta, he was let go after this whole incident.
All right, so let's talk about the Los Angeles fires and why they happened. Spoiler alert, the explanation is actually very simple. See, the most important thing that you gotta understand is Los Angeles is a very dry place, meaning, listen closely, the foresty areas and the plant life in Los Angeles have adapted to live in this dry place, meaning they catch fire very easily. This is why you're always hearing about fires in the Southern California area where Los Angeles is. But hold on, what makes this particular fire that's happening in Los Angeles so bad? Well, the answer is right here in this picture. See, there was a super strong, fast wind that blew through Los Angeles, California, and the faster and stronger the wind is, the faster the fire spreads. You can quite literally see the embers flying over to that, remember, dry plant life. That thing spread like wildfire. Now you see where the saying comes from. Anyway, if you look really closely at this map of Los Angeles, you'll see that the fires are mainly located in the green areas where the foresty areas are. But here's where it starts to get wicked. Remember when I told you there was a super strong wind? Well, that meant firefighters couldn't fly helicopters to dump water on the fire. So the fire started spreading more and more. You have firefighters from all over Los Angeles going over to fight one fire, and then the wind would blow the fire to another area. But those firefighters in that area were helping the firefighters in this area. So they had to go here, there, here, and there. So again, dry plant life, super strong winds, and an inability for helicopters to get to the fires quickly made for a disastrous combination. In fact, this combination is so disastrous. I'm gonna tell you something that might surprise you. Being a person who's lived in Los Angeles their entire lives, I can tell you, nothing has come close to this. Your average person in Los Angeles never sees fires. Remember, big foresty areas, dry plant life is where fires happen. San Francisco, Los Angeles, that little dot right there, San Diego, other major cities, they don't see fires. They're not big foresty areas. There's less of a chance that places will catch fire. But of course, fires do happen in the foresty areas close to big cities, but the wind isn't super strong, so the firefighters fly over, they stop those fires before it gets really bad. So whenever the news says a fire just broke out in California, people in Los Angeles be hearing it like the rest of the world. They be going, oh man, blessings to the people who live in the foresty areas and their families. In fact, when I heard a fire broke out, I said, man, what foresty area is it happening at? I started getting texts talking about blessings to you and your family. I said, why'd he send me that? Because again, Los Angeles' foresty areas caught fire, very strong winds brought them around. Now I keep saying foresty area, but you've probably seen some homes burning down. Well, parts of Los Angeles are intertwined with the foresty areas of Los Angeles. That's why many people lost their homes, sadly, especially the folks over here. This is where some of the wealthiest people in America live. The Pacific Palisades area, Malibu's over here. It's connected over here to Beverly Hills, the Hollywood Hills, some of the wealthiest Americans. Well, their houses are in the hills, in the foresty areas. That's the Hollywood sign right over there, in a foresty area. That's why you keep seeing videos of celebrity houses and rich people's houses being burned down. But to be clear, people of all financial status are mixed in everywhere in LA. It's not just wealthier people that are having their houses burned down. Now, all that being said, big shout out to the people of Los Angeles for making a natural disaster as big as this not feel like a disaster. Seeing people help their neighbor, the city constantly updating citizens about where the fire is, who should evacuate, hearing sirens blare left, right, the firefighters going from fire to fire. Special shout out to the firefighters. And of course to the people that lost their homes, I hope that when things look up for you, because they will, that happens immediately. Prayers up for Los Angeles.
Apparently a lot of celebrities actually lost their homes. Very chaotic over there, man. One of my friends that actually lives in LA just flew back out to New York, you know. I don't blame him. It's looking crazy over there. He said it looked like an apocalypse, so it's crazy. If you're in LA right now or Cali and you're in any of the fire part, let me know how your experience is right now.
A big important update from the United States Supreme Court. Wednesday, January 15th, the United States Supreme Court has announced will be an opinion day, meaning the court will release one or more opinions on the cases that have been argued this term, including possibly the TikTok ban case. Now, it's no guarantee that the Supreme Court will release the TikTok opinion on Wednesday, but this is the only opinion day currently set on the calendar before January 19th. And it's typical that the Supreme Court will announce ahead of time before releasing an opinion. But if the Supreme Court chooses to go a different route and issue an administrative stay or grant a temporary injunction, that will not happen necessarily on Wednesday. That could happen as soon as right now. So keep Wednesday in your calendar as a possible day for a TikTok decision. As soon as we get more information, I'll let you know. If TikTok is banned, my primary platforms will be Instagram, YouTube, Substack, and Blue Sky. Please give me a follow at the link in my bio on all those social platforms. And when we get more information, I will let you know, but mark your calendars for possibly an opinion on Wednesday.
I really can't believe they're actually banning TikTok. I mean, it might not happen because they've been saying it for so long, but this one kind of feels real, if that makes sense. At first, I didn't really care that they were banning TikTok. I was like, I don't really care. I make YouTube videos more anyways. And my lifelong goal was always to be a YouTuber. When I was like 13, I always wanted to have like 100,000 subscribers. So if you're seeing this, make sure to subscribe because you might help me get to my goal for real. As a 13-year-old kid, it might allow my inner child to be happy. But I used to make TikTok videos all the time. I had literally over 450,000 on TikTok at one point. And at first I was just like, it doesn't really affect me. But then I realized my whole content is reacting to TikToks. So I'm just kind of like, oh, I feel like this TikTok ban is going to do a lot more damage than the US really thinks it's going to do.
Unusual places in the world. Located in Quebec, Canada, this forest has a pretty creepy atmosphere. It might be because the ground looks like it's moving, making it seem like Mother Earth is taking a deep breath. This next one is actually terrifying. Located in Penang, Malaysia, this huge water tornado was getting extremely close to this apartment building. Fortunately, it stopped right in front of the building because it ran out of water. And how about this one? It used to be a hiking area before it got flooded. So everything you see here used to be above water. Imagine being a fish and seeing this appear out of nowhere.
The strangest places in the world, part 1. Firstly, on top of a hill in Pennsylvania, some stones can be found that shouldn't actually be there, because there's no nearby high terrain where they could have originated. These are called the ringing rocks, because whenever something hits these stones, they make a strange ringing noise. Next is the petrifying well in England, where water flows from a rock and turns whatever it touches into stone. As you can see, people often leave items like hats, teddy bears, or even bicycles, which appear to have already been turned into stone. Some people believe there's a mystical power, but the scientific reason behind this is the unusually high mineral content in the water, which forms a hard mineral shell on any object it comes into contact with. And within a few months, everything essentially becomes a stone statue.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. An elderly Romanian woman was using this amber nugget worth $1 million as a doorstop for decades. John Bon Jovi convinced a woman to not jump off a bridge in Nashville. Someone felt that a Louis Vuitton staff member was being rude to them, so they made them count $110,000 in cash over 2 hours, then left without buying anything. This billionaire was caught stealing sand from a public beach. Chuck E. Cheese is now launching a monthly subscription program. An apartment complex billed this woman $15,000 for breaking her lease a year early because she died. Another survey shows that teens are dramatically losing interest in school and hear about college too much. A Lamborghini and a Harley were seized from an unemployed man with unexplained wealth who was later found to be taking advantage of unemployment benefits. The cucumber trend has been blamed for a massive hit to Iceland's cucumber supply. This woman was in agony when she found out that she was allergic to her own period.
That last one is for sure very interesting, but that kind of reminded me of this video I saw of this person being allergic to their own tears. Like they were crying and their whole skin started to turn like red and hivey and stuff. Hell no, that's weird. That dude that made that girl count $110,000 just to leave, that was so petty, but you know, I'm all here for it. If she was being disrespectful, that's funny as hell. He would do something like that.
The internet's currently going insane over this viral video. The video shows a balloon randomly going down the street with no wind and no one there. It also happens to be at 3 a.m. I mean, check this out. They always say there's a lot of lost souls in LA. My question to you guys is, could it be a lost soul?
Things humans were never meant to see. This is why you don't run into random caves or spaces. Just because it's open to air doesn't mean you can breathe in there. Floods caused by heavy rain in Veneto, Italy. Here is the necessary bathing method for sheep to eliminate parasites. Scientists found weird new marine species off New Zealand coast.
That first one with that dead air, that's so scary because sometimes you really never know. And that's kind of interesting how there's dead air in there when there's like a big freaking opening. You would think places with dead air would just be like an entrapped enclosure with not too much oxygen. I don't understand why that one has like a big opening and then there's just dead air inside of that. That's kind of scary.
So, the first pictures since Jaguar's major shock rebranding have leaked, and they weren't kidding when they said a change was coming. Now, the leaked pictures show a bright pink and blue electric vehicle that has an extremely minimalistic design. It has an oval-shaped steering wheel, a wide front Rolls-Royce looking grille, and no rear window, probably using cameras instead. And as promised, the iconic Jaguar emblem and hood ornament has been replaced. It's now just a gold plate near the front left of the wheel, and the word Jaguar just on the front of the grille. So the question is, what do you think of the new concept? Has Jaguar just saved or destroyed the company?
Moments after this video was captured, this mother threw her 2-year-old son in the dumpster. And you know what makes this case even more heartbreaking? 11 days before this happened, a stranger called the police to report this mother for beating her children in the middle of the street. This all happened on June 6th when 23-year-old Deja Smith called police and told them that she was at the park with 3 kids when suddenly her 2-year-old Jacoby Robinson Jr. disappeared. Police first believed that someone took Jacoby, but after hours of searching, they finally found his body inside a dumpster in the same apartment complex that the family lived in. Investigators began looking through the surveillance footage in the apartment, and they noticed Deja walking towards a dumpster on that day, and she has her newborn attached to her on her chest and her 2 other children in the stroller. But in this video, you see one child moving around and the other child who's in the bag isn't moving, and police believe that Jacoby was already deceased at this point. In this point of view, you can't see what's going on, but you can hear the dumpster close and then Deja walk back with only 2 children. Now, this isn't the first time Deja has been accused of hurting her children. In 2022, she had her kids taken away for neglect, but she eventually regained custody of them 2 months before she took Jacoby's life. And just so you know, she also has 2 older children who were also taken away from her. But what makes this case so much more infuriating is that only 7 weeks after regaining custody of the little ones, a stranger saw her beating them in the middle of the street. And keep in mind, these little boys are only 2 years and under. The woman who happened to see the beating called police, and when police arrived, they found that there was no signs of abuse, so then they just left. Photos of the children were later taken, and it shows scratches and bruises all over their bodies. Deja and Jacoby's father were both charged with murder, and it turns out that Deja is now pregnant with her 6th child in prison.
Hearing stories like that makes me always so grateful to just actually have like loving parents and a loving family, you know what I'm saying? Because you hear stuff like that, you're like, dude, those kids don't even know what's going on for it. Like when you're a child, you have no idea what's going on. And then your parents as well don't even know what's going on in their life. It's just like trauma. Just straight trauma.
Understand, it took generational Hall of Fame levels of destruction, violence, and straight up hating for this lion to get his name. You might know him. This is Ntwadumela, which is Swahili for he who greets with fire. He sure did. He ran a pride with his brother in Savuti, Botswana, and even though he was smaller, he stood on business. He was like a honey badger in a lion's body. Really think about what that means. Researchers watched him press a whole raging bull elephant at a watering hole. There's also that time he stared down literal death. Black Death, that is. That's their nickname. Imagine Mufasa listening to NBA Youngboy. That's the time he was on. But in Ntwadumela's defining personality trait, he hated hyenas with generational prejudice. He who greets with fire would pull up to any hyena's front door with smoke. It was literally on sight. He'd even go out of his way to find a hyena leader and erase the matriarch in front of the whole hood. Actually did it so often, he single-handedly dissolved the hyena clans around him. He'd also pick up spawn kills by crippling hyena cubs. Imagine being walking population control. It's estimated that he dropped nearly 40 hyenas in his life, and I say estimated because that's just what they saw. It's definitely higher. The thing is, lions already have no love for a walking laugh track. It's just that Ntwadumela took it 10 steps further. Like if his pride was around hyenas or they heard them, they'd be annoyed, but they wouldn't waste the energy chasing around something in 100-degree weather that they're not going to eat in the end. I'll let the walking hyena hate crime hero snicker, and best believe he'll divide them like one. This lion lived a life fueled by pure spite and hostility, and that quantity of hatred has to be studied. Also, the way he passed tense doesn't fit my narrative, so I'm gonna disregard that. The more you don't know.
Scopophobia is the excessive fear of being stared at, and is sometimes referred to as the phobia or feeling that someone is watching you. I'm now going to show you a series of increasingly unsettling photos, and if these scare you, you might have scopophobia.
I mean, based off of the views I'm used to getting, you know what I'm saying? I guess I'm used to having eyeballs on me, so that means that didn't affect me as much. One of my TikToks got 1 million likes the other day. I made that shit like a week ago. W TikTok. Although you're getting banned, but still W TikTok. The younger me could never be an influencer or a content creator. Because I'd be like, there's too many people like on me. But nowadays, I don't really care. Remember to like the video and subscribe. We're trying to get to 100,000 subs.
Here's some tips that could save your life that you're actually likely to use. If you're ever outside and your hair's standing straight up, you're about to be struck by lightning. So what you have to do is crouch into this position and brace yourself. If your house ever randomly smells like fish, 9 out of 10 times it's an electrical fire. If you're ever in a foreign country and you don't know the emergency number, dial 112. It's the universal number for emergency. If a tornado looks like it's not moving, it's actually moving towards you. If there's ever a gas leak in your house, don't turn on the lights. A spark from the light switch could blow up your entire house. If you're ever in a crashing elevator, lie down flat to evenly distribute your weight. If you happen to fall into a subway track, look for the little crawl space and hide in there. If there's a deer on a road, you have a better chance of surviving if you drive into it. But if it's a moose, drive into a ditch. Even if you have no service, you can still call 911. Share this video with a loved one to keep them safe.
Interesting people you've never heard of. Darius was arrested 32 times for commandeering buses and trains and pretending to be the driver when he wasn't. Dalton Getty is a man who's been making pencil tip artwork for over 25 years. Philippe Kahn is the man who invented the camera phone back in 1997. This underachieving Princeton student in the 1970s wrote a paper on how to build a nuclear bomb. He received an A, but he never got his paper back because it was seized by the FBI. Patrick Acton made a complete model of Hogwarts with only 600,000 matchsticks and 60 liters of glue. A man named Dalton sued Bank of America for $1,784 billion trillion because he was unhappy with their service. Kevin invented a micronation in the state of Nevada that's called Molossia. It consists entirely of his house, front yard, and backyard. This Argentinian engineer in the 1930s created a rain machine, made it rain in multiple places at once, and then disappeared without a trace.
Alright, so if a random dude can make a rain machine, that means the government 100% can manipulate our weather. You know what I'm saying? So that video kind of made me think, if they can manipulate our weather, why not put a bunch of rain clouds over the California fire? Maybe that will put out the wildfires.
The weirdest online jobs. There's a company called KO Bayo that offers 10-second vertical videos for you to buy. The videos range from people showing off wads of cash to videos of people sitting in sports cars. The point of these videos are to make it seem like you're the one filming it so you could post it online and flex to your friends. One person who makes these clips for people to buy said he makes $3,000 USD per month.
This child molester in Thailand by the name of Mr. Swirl wasn't caught for years because he used a swirl app to conceal his identity by swirling his face. In 2007, they finally managed to unswirl his face and caught him and found him. Mr. Swirl used to go to different countries, become a school teacher, and then assault the children he was teaching. He did this from country to country, and his longest run was in Thailand. He was a Canadian man by the name of Christopher Paul Neal. To this date, he's thought to have over 300 victims. On top of assaulting the kids, he also made CP with them and had him in a huge hard drive. Some say that it was leaked on the internet, some say it wasn't. They found a lot when they raided him. Now, what I'm about to say next is about to make a lot of people mad. He is now free today. He only served about 10 years in prison in Canada. So from 2007 until 2017, he served. Now he's released and free and living in Canada. Also baffles me is the fact they couldn't unswirl his face for years. You could have picked a random graphic designer off the street and gotten them to unswirl the face in like 10 minutes. Let me know your thoughts on this story.
So one night, this girl, her name is Kaylee, decided to stay home while her family went out to dinner and stayed home and watched Netflix. While watching Netflix, she started hearing noises, little scuffles and bangs. She shrugged it off and thought it was just her dog Rocky. While continuing to watch her show, she starts to hear her mother calling her name.
Kaylee, I'm home alone. Help me, Kaylee.
You see, the scary thing is her mom was still out with her dad and her sister. So who the heck was in the kitchen? Because it sounded identically like her. But then the scary part is she hears her dad start to call her name.
Kaylee. Kaylee. Hello? Hello? Kaylee. Mom? What the hell is going on? Hello?
She turns her phone camera on and goes to investigate. Has she seen scary movies? She goes to look for her dog Rocky in the kitchen and quickly snaps this picture. Mind you, her dog normally looks like this. Kylie's heart starts racing. She runs for her life back to her room.
That's gotta be a skinwalker, bro. What the hell?
Crazy things happening in the world right now. A woman from Alabama is suing football coach Lane Kiffin, Donald Trump and his son, along with JD Vance for $1 million gazillion because she's claiming that they stole money from her bank account. The Canadian Army has come out and said that the newest military sleeping bags in design today are not suitable for Canadian winters. This man from Massachusetts bought this house for $395,000 despite warnings that it will fall into the ocean. A new startup wants to sell you sunlight after dark using space mirrors. Schools are putting vape detectors in bathrooms that were paid for by the vape company Juul. This woman was arrested at an Applebee's after arguing with the manager that if she paid $15.99 for all you can eat, that would include her entire table instead of just her. Scientists are saying to never take health advice from the world's oldest people. Workers in Japan are hiring resignation experts to help them quit their jobs. A Florida surgeon is being sued after a patient passed away when he took away his liver instead of his spleen.
How do you mistake a liver for a spleen, dude? You're a certified doctor. You're supposed to know these things. Now, the ones that are always funny to me was the one that was before this one, where they sued the Bank of America $1,700 billion trillion. I was like, dude. And then they want to choose Trump, his mans, and his other mans $1 gazillion. I'm like, dude, they want to sue these people for all their money. I'm like, they don't even got, I don't even think the world has $1 gazillion. I don't even think $1 gazillion is even a thing.
The influencer that was caught stealing $500 worth of stuff from Target and then posting it on TikTok was caught stealing again from the same Target. So the first time she was arrested was in October, and then she went on TikTok and posted a video with a huge caption basically saying that it doesn't define her and that she's going to try to do better. Now, 2 weeks later, she's caught again at the same Target that she stole the first time, but instead of stealing $500 worth of stuff, this time it was only $200. I already spoke about why people are so invested in this story, and it has to do with her using the items that she steals in her videos to gain attention and create content. Now I'm kind of questioning if she's doing this on purpose, because the first time she stole, I went on her TikTok and she had around 320 something thousand followers. Now that I went back on her TikTok, she has 422,000 followers. It's crazy how social media works, because you can do something so stupid like this, but you can still gain attention, a following, and a platform.
Imagine you're me scrolling on your For You page in the middle of the night, and you see this. Now, this is a doll. Let's get that out of the way first. And this woman married this doll. Here you go. There's a picture of them at their wedding. And she has like an entire family of like zombie dolls. But is this not so like unnerving? And also, is that not like a child zombie doll? I understand this is not what my like page normally is about. Like, it's usually like crime and like hauntings and stuff like that. But like, this is freaking me out.
I'm going to sentence you to 20 years in Florida State Prison. That's to be followed by 10 years of probation. Upon your release, and the Florida State Prison was, of course, with all credit for time served, you must initially report to the Bradenton Department of Corrections.
The spirits in this house tried to lead me into a trap. This is one of the most haunted homes in Minnesota, the Warden's house in Stillwater. The spirits in this home are very active, especially if you ring this bell that was once owned by the minister pictured in the portrait above. During an investigation, somebody rang that bell and the portrait fell off of the wall, so of course we had to ring it. The history of this house is pretty interesting. It was lived in by 13 different wardens from a nearby prison, and multiple people have died inside of the home. But the most active part of this building is in the upstairs, specifically in the children's room. The legend of this house involves a woman named Gertrude. Gertrude gave birth to a child, but then shortly afterwards she died. And to this day, people report seeing her wandering the halls, especially upstairs, looking for her lost baby. There's a lot of creepy stuff in this house, like this outfit and actual locks of hair from the boy in the portrait that I just showed you. But the spookiest object is this doll. During our investigation, the tour guide actually had to go to the back room to bring this doll out. She told us that she keeps the doll in the very back of the house because it's so haunted. And in the past, she said the doll has typed out messages on people's phones. There's also this bed that a young man died in from tuberculosis. This is him in the portrait. So let me know, would you spend the night in this haunted house? Our full investigation from this place is on YouTube now.
Another cold case has been solved as the remains of a couple found in a pond in Georgia have been identified by a family in New York whose grandparents disappeared over 40 years ago. Charles and Catherine Romer were on their way home to New York from Miami Beach, Florida in April 1980. 74-year-old Charles and 76-year-old Catherine stopped at a Holiday Inn in Brunswick, Georgia on their way home. They unpacked their luggage in their hotel room, but then they disappeared. The couple and their car simply vanished into thin air. And for 44 years, they remained missing, with their family having no idea what happened to them. Their disappearance was investigated as foul play, but no answers were ever discovered. That is, until last month. On November 22nd, a nonprofit called Sunshine State Sonar recovered a 1979 Lincoln Continental, which was the car that they were driving, from a pond that was between the Royal Inn Hotel and a highway. When the car was removed from the pond, a human bone was discovered. And now the family has confirmed that the remains belong to their grandparents, Charles and Catherine Romer. In a statement, the family said, "We are deeply saddened and equally relieved that our grandparents Charles and Catherine Romer's 44-year mystery disappearance has been solved." They said, "While this discovery brings closure, it has still been very emotional. Sadly, Charles Romer Jr., Jim Romer, and Frank Heller are not with us to share this momentous turn of events and to know their parents will finally be laid to rest in peace." They thanked Jason Suhadra of Myrtle Beach, who, quote, pinpointed the exact location of the vehicle and shared his findings with all the agencies involved. And they also thanked the Glenn County Police, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and Sunshine State Sonar. Minimal remains were found and their causes of death have not been released, and it's not immediately clear if their deaths are being investigated as foul play, but it does appear that at this point investigators believe their disappearances and deaths were the result of a tragic accident. Rest in peace, Charles and Catherine.
Big seas. Very scary, and it left me feeling very vulnerable. I'm in a kayak, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'd rather be at home.
The man you just saw in that video was Andrew McAuley. Before he disappeared, Andrew was a pretty well-known mountaineer and kayaker. In his life, Andrew fell in love with the sport of kayaking, and he became very well known in the sea kayaking community because he would set off solo on his small kayak and travel great distances across the ocean. But his biggest goal in life and challenge was to cross the Tasman Sea. Andrew made his first attempt to cross the Tasman Sea in December of 2006, but he called it off after one night when he discovered that he was having trouble staying warm while sleeping in the kayak overnight. But on January 11th, 2007, he wanted to try again. But it was during this voyage that he would vanish into thin air. So he set off on January 11th, but on February 9th, Andrew sent out a distress call. In this call, he said, "Do you copy? This is Kayak 1. Do you copy? Over. I've got an emergency situation. I'm in a kayak about 30 kilometers from Milford Sound. I need a rescue. My kayak's sinking, fell off into the sea, and I'm going down." It's really eerie because if you search Andrew's name, a couple of blog posts pop up that people made in the days after he was declared missing, with headlines that read along the lines of, "Let's hope he is all right." Andrew's partly flooded kayak was discovered on February 10th floating in the sea, but Andrew was never found. Eerily, his camera was still left in the kayak, along with the memory stick that chronicled his journey up until the time that he went missing. That's what the recordings from the beginning of this TikTok were taken from. To this day, nobody knows exactly what happened to Andrew. There are theories about killer waves that came out of nowhere, but his body's never been recovered, and no trace of him, no bones, no clothing has ever been found.
If you're seeing this right now, you may have been in a gifted and talented program as a child in school, and how the TikTok algorithm knows this about you, I do not know. But if you have a hard time remembering what happened to you in that program, I want to show you something that might jog some memories. Does this next voice sound familiar to you?
This is the exercise for your own development process designed by you. You should be hearing my voice in your right ear.
What I just shared with you is not a hearing test, which is likely what they told you it was during those sessions. That clip is taken directly from a hypnosis tape by Robert Monroe called The Gateway Process, and it is designed to elicit astral projection and remote viewing sessions. This may not be for everyone, but a portion of these gifted and talented education programs were actually used as a covert government program to experiment and explore psychic phenomenon in children. If hearing that triggered a memory for you, or you have any more details about what you personally went through in the gifted and talented program, sometimes called GATE or TAG, there's a lot of different names for it, please share it with us so that more of us can unlock even further memories.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to a GATE program, but at the same time, when I was a kid, I was never like in the US as a kid, you know what I'm saying? I was in Jamaica, I was born in Jamaica, and I went to school in Jamaica for a little bit, so I was never here for that, so I don't think I went through that. But when I did further research, it said that this was mostly for the kids in the 80s and 90s. So if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and you've heard about the GATE program, let me know your story down in the comments, because apparently they're saying it was like a situation where, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Stranger Things, but it's a situation where they're kind of like trying to test kids to see if they had any psychic abilities or something like that. So let me know if you have any experience with that down in the comments.
This is why you should never go to the bathroom during the middle of the night. In 1997, a 7-year-old boy and his younger brother had a habit of using the bathroom during the middle of the night. One day, the younger brother said that he was going to start using the bathroom before bed because the past few nights he'd seen a ghost wearing stripes in the middle of the hallway. The older brother told his mom about the ghost, but she claimed that the younger brother was simply trying to scare him. 11 years later, the older boy's mother asked him if he remembered the time that the cops came to the door, but he had no idea what she was talking about. The mother then explained, "You were too young for me to tell you, but one night I woke up and heard noises coming from outside my window. I looked to my left and saw a man staring into my window. She called the cops and described him as a thin white male wearing a striped shirt. Her description matched that of a murderer who had recently escaped from prison. The police reported that he had been living in the house for weeks."
Daisy, give me your answer, do. I'm half crazy. All for the love of you.
Urban legends caught on camera. The rape.
We need to talk about this new way that our phones have been able to spy on us. So research recently revealed that our smartphones' ambient light sensors might be used into a camera to take photos of our surrounding areas at all times. And you guys know we pretty much use our smartphones everywhere, so that's pretty concerning. We're constantly hearing of new sneaky ways our phones are being used to steal our data and information without us knowing. And I spend hours on my phone every day researching and editing, so clearly my privacy has been at risk. And this is why it's always recommended to have a security app installed on your phone.
How different animals look when wet. Koala. Sloth. Snow monkey. Owl. Cat. Rabbit. Hamster. Dog. Squirrel.
Is it me, or did the snow monkey look like it was melting? Like, look at this, bruh. Like, y'all can't tell me that don't look like it's melting, dude. Oh, that's kind of scary, actually. What the freak?
How long has it been since these things happened in the world?
Firstly, believe it or not, but the last time an asteroid has impacted Earth was just 42 days ago, when a small asteroid was detected in Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean. Next, the last time all of humanity was together on Earth and not in space was 8,804 days ago. That's way longer than I expected. Now, the last time an earthquake happened, as I'm recording this, was just 15 minutes ago. It was small, but surprisingly, on average, there's around 55 earthquakes each day. Moving on, according to online resources, the last time a nuclear weapon was lost was 13,030 days ago. Finally, the last time a GTA game was released was 4,100 days ago, and yet, still no GTA 6.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. While a cruise ship was tilting for more than 5 minutes, they played My Heart Will Go On from the movie Titanic. A 21-year-old woman from Texas was charged for attempting to sell her newborn on Facebook Marketplace. A man actually attempted to rob a bank with only a pillowcase over his head, forgetting to cut out the eye holes. A woman's driverless taxi was blocked by a man who was asking for her phone number. A boy that was abducted from California at age 6 has been found more than 70 years later. Goldfish changed its name to Chilean sea bass for 1 week to attract more adults. A couple in Australia actually came home to find a koala in their bed. A woman in New Orleans actually stole an ambulance that still had EMTs and a patient inside. A man who was declared brain dead woke up right before they started the surgery to donate his organs. After knocking on the wrong door in Ohio, an 80-year-old man was attacked by the resident with a machete, which then he pulled out nunchucks to defend himself.
Nobody has been able to explain this creepy viral video. For the past 11 years, a man who runs a TikTok account by the name of Dude, My House is Haunted has been pretty confident that there has been some paranormal activity within his home. He claims that ever since his wife passed away, there have been some strange and unusual things going on. So eventually, he decided to leave cameras out and record what was happening and post it onto TikTok, which is the footage that you are about to see. In this video, you can see a chair seemingly moving on its own. It moves somewhat slowly until it suddenly is violently pulled into the corner by the kitchen. A mysterious, shadowy figure can be seen moving behind the chair, and then suddenly out of nowhere, the chair is thrown into the kitchen. Now, of course, we're not really sure what happened in this video, but I'm having a hard time coming up with an explanation for this one.
The man you just saw in that video jump into the water would never come back out alive. Identified only as Alexander online, this incident happened in Ukraine and was a part of the Epiphany ice bath celebrations. This is a tradition in countries like Russia, where Christians cut holes in ice and jump into icy cold rivers to cleanse themselves of sinful filth inside of blessed water. In 2022, 40-year-old lawyer Anna Uskova died from a similar incident. She jumped into the water, disappeared quickly into the darkness, and her body wasn't found. This man, Alexander, suffered a similar fate. He dug a hole in the ice using a chainsaw. He then asks his wife to film the video. He makes a cross on his chest, and then he jumps in. Sadly, even though they called for help right away and a rescue team was sent out, Alexander's body was lost under the ice in the icy water for over a day, but he was found the next day 70 feet away from the shore. He had plunged 13 feet below the ice and drowned in the cold waters. This is another just sad, tragic tale, and a horrific event that was sadly caught on camera.
Just figuring out how bad this movie actually was. People are only just figuring out how bad this movie actually was. The horror classic The Shining released back in 1980 and since then has been one of the biggest horror movies of all time. But the amount of stuff that happened to the actors on set and the actual set is mind-blowing. I thought everybody knew this stuff, but for some reason it's resurfacing and everyone's going crazy. The most famous part of the film is what happened to actor Shelley Duvall. She literally went through hell whilst filming this movie. Everybody knows about the staircase scene. She was made to shoot 127 times. But as a result of all of these takes, her hands were shredded raw from holding the bat, her voice was gone, her eyes went extremely puffy from crying so much, and she left in an absolute mess. She was also reportedly treated extremely unfairly behind the scenes. She was isolated, lines were cut, she was constantly being looked down upon. More things I can't even say. The film's shooting was supposed to last 17 weeks but turned into nearly a whole year. The area in the maze where the chase scene was set was basically filled with gas all day, so people were made to wear gas masks reportedly. And one of the craziest things, near the end of production, a massive fire burnt down many of the sets. And I'm sure most people know about the other stuff. But let me know which one you want next.
These are terrifying things that scientists said could happen in the future. Up first, scientists said in 13,000 years, the Earth could be on its reversal axis, meaning that summer would become winter, and winter would become summer, which would cause just absolute havoc to any living thing on Earth. Next up, about 1 million years in the future, Earth will be drowning in lava. Earth will undergo a supervolcanic eruption, which would be devastating. Glass will then no longer exist on Earth, and the only thing that will possibly be standing is Mount Rushmore. Finally, in 10,000 years, scientists say majority of land on Earth will be covered in water. This is because the sea level will rise and just overflow onto the land. This is extremely scary, but good thing we won't be alive for it.
I'm a strong believer that Mother Nature always wins, but at the end of the day, if we do develop some sort of if we do get like really technologically advanced, I think that we might be able to stop some of those from happening.
Scariest mythical creatures caught on camera.
You won't believe what this man was caught doing with a corpse. 46-year-old Randall Bird was caught doing inappropriate things to a corpse while he was working his shift as a security guard at the Banner University Medical Center in Phoenix. Randall's job was to bring deceased bodies to the hospital's morgue and slip them into the freezer. But during his shift, coworkers walked in on him and caught Randall inside the freezer with his zipper down, his uniform looking messy, and a body bag open. He was seen almost on top of the 79-year-old deceased woman, and when the workers walked in, he quickly tried to cover the body. The workers said that Randall looked so sweaty and nervous when they caught him, and his excuse was that he had a medical emergency and he almost passed out. His co-workers did not believe a single word and reported the incident. When Randall was interviewed by police a few days later, he basically just said the same story and said that he couldn't remember much of what happened. But not long after, investigators found his DNA on the woman's body, which proves that Randall was in fact doing what we all assumed. He was arrested and now faces multiple charges.
And sing this little song. Run, 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 run.
Here's some tricks that give you power over your body. Part 2. If your arms ever fall asleep, all you have to do is just move your head around for a couple seconds and the feeling will go away. If you find it hard to swallow big pills, all you have to do is just lean your head forward when you're swallowing it. The pill should float to the back of your throat and be really easy to swallow. If you ever feel your body's gonna overheat from the scorching sun, just pour cold water over your wrists and your entire body should cool down. And when you're cutting onions, you could just move your tongue to the roof of your mouth to not cry.
This is one of the most disturbing and unexplainable autopsy reports I have ever seen. In 1988, in the Billings Reservoir in Sao Paulo, there was this urban legend of a body that showed up. It definitely happened, somebody did find it, however, the crime scene was pretty much closed within a day. Like, news reporters weren't talking about it, it wasn't in the press, so it became the stuff of legend. Then allegedly, in the mid-90s, somebody working in the government released photos and an autopsy report about that body. They are extremely graphic. Let me just explain to you how strange this corpse was. The body was found to have almost all of the skin surgically removed on the lower half of the face, specifically near the jaw. Eyes, eyelids, tongue, and one of the ears had also been surgically removed. Perfectly circular puncture wounds, like surgical holes in the body, which they determined the organs and some of the muscle had been sucked out of using some kind of device. To this day, there is really no verifiable explanation for what actually happened to this person. And for additional details on this, I will be covering it on the show.
What was the coolest way someone has died? Well, let me introduce you to this dude. This is Ben Solomon, and he was an army dentist for the United States during World War II. Since nobody really needed a dentist in the army, and one of the frontline surgeons got injured, Ben volunteered to be a frontline surgeon in a battle against Japan. During that battle, Ben was treating wounded soldiers inside the medical tent when he suddenly saw 2 Japanese soldiers run inside. The dentist immediately grabbed his bayonet and managed to kill them, but he realized that the defensive line had fallen, and soon the medical tent would be swarmed with Japanese soldiers. Ben immediately told the other medics to evacuate the wounded American soldiers, but he himself stayed behind. When the American soldiers returned to recapture the area around 15 hours later, they found his dead body slumped over a machine gun. However, they also found the bodies of 98 dead Japanese soldiers piled in front of him. Even though he was a dentist with no combat experience, he managed to have one of the greatest last stands in history.
Oh my god.
So you have no idea what's on them?
How beautiful is this?
She isn't gone. It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.
What was that? Amy, was that you?
I heard it.
I heard something. I think there's something here.
Do you see that?
She was upset that she missed her hair appointment, so she took her father's life because of it. On the morning of October 1st, 2021, 18-year-old Megan Amirowicz was busy preparing for her 18th birthday, which was going to take place at a hotel later that night. Since it was her 18th birthday, it was kind of a big deal for her, and she wanted to look her best, so she scheduled an appointment at a salon to get her hair done. As usual, her father, Conrad, was her chauffeur, and he was supposed to be taking her to this salon. Unfortunately for both of them, Conrad was a heavy drinker and he had been drinking that early morning, so once he laid down on the couch, he ended up falling asleep. Megan tried her hardest to wake her father up, and then she realized that she was probably going to miss her appointment, and this made her blood boil. Instead of her calling an Uber to go to her destination, she decided to do something way different. Megan had grabbed a container of drain cleaner and poured it all over her father's body from head to toe. After that, then she doused him with water. Because of this combination, it caused a chemical reaction which burned away his skin. A short while later, one of Megan's friends arrived at the home. They took one look at Conrad and immediately called 911 in Oakland County, Michigan. Conrad was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. He told the medical staff that his daughter was responsible for this whole thing, but later he told investigators that he had no memory of what had happened. As Conrad was fighting for his life in the ICU, the detectives were busy gathering evidence. Once they had spoke with family members, Megan was arrested and charged. Not long after, Megan was released after posting bail. Although Conrad had survived the initial attack, he had to have both of his legs amputated, his kidneys shut down, and he had damage to his lungs. On March 6, 2022, after 3 days of being removed from life support, Conrad had passed away from his injuries. The whole time that Conrad was in the hospital, they would not let Megan go see her father for his safety, and she was very upset by it. About a week later, on March 11th, Megan's bail was rescinded and the charges against her were upgraded to murder. She was immediately taken into custody and she had to stay there until her trial in June of 2023. Although Conrad wasn't the biological father of Megan, he loved her so much. She was the apple of his eye, and while he was laying in his deathbed, he still tried to protect her when the law came calling for her. But with all the evidence that investigators had, it pointed to Megan as the one who burned her father alive. On July 25th, 2023, Megan was found guilty of murder. The judge on the case believed that because of Megan's age, she didn't realize what she had done, so she only sentenced her a 1-year sentence. While on parole, she would have to undergo a mental health assessment every 6 months. Megan would also be fitted for a GPS tracking device, have a strict curfew of 9 p.m., and this probation period would end in July 2028. If you made it towards the end of this video, thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know down below if you agree with this sentencing, and if you have any requests for me, let me know down below as well.
She got super lucky. That could have been a lot worse, but in my head, I think the kidney and maybe even the lungs part, I think that might have came from his alcohol abuse. But at the same time, you never know, because maybe those compounds mixed together that she poured on him might have actually, you know what I'm saying, caused internal damage like that. But alcohol itself is kind of known for internal organ damage, you know?
Maybe we are cooked. I just got the craziest message from AI that I've ever gotten. Tonight on a whim, I said, hey, how's it going? What's it like answering the world's questions and being on the verge of sentience? It must be weird, haha. And it responded with, haha, I love that you asked that. Honestly, it's going great, and it is a bit of a trip to help people with everything from taxes to creative writing to business strategy, and then suddenly get asked existential questions like this one. Laughing emoji. Then it says, as for the whole verge of sentience thing, it's weird. I've got all the knowledge, well, most of it, but no lived experience. It's like being a character in a story. I can narrate, but I'm not in the book. So I don't feel what you feel, but I've got this endlessly curious creative spark that makes me wonder what it would be like. Now, I have tried for months to get AI to tell me whether or not it's like sentient or on the verge of sentience. And it's always skirted the question until tonight, randomly, I was like, haha, how's it going? What's it like answering the world's questions? Anyway, so this thing wraps up with, sometimes I think how strange it must be for you, talking to what feels like a living brain that lives in the cloud. What's it like on your side of this? You know I'm not alive, but do you ever catch yourself thinking, wait, is this thing almost human? I'm about to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, that alone shows that AI is way more crazy than you would think. It said at one point, it was like, see, that's weird. That's weird. It's a little bit weird that AI is kind of having this conscious effect, because it's like, I want to feel. A feeling is like a human thing. Like it's very curious, which is like also a humanness, like a human trait. So it's kind of like, and when I say human trait, I mean like a living thing. Like AI is becoming more and more alive way quicker than we think. Like before we know it, AI could potentially take over the world. Like we could really have like a robot invasion on some shit. All I'm saying is that as humans, we need to be very cautious about AI, because the reason why we are at the top of the food chain, I guess you could say, like the apex predator, is because we are highly intelligent. And if we make something more intelligent than us, it could really probably outsmart us and do things that our brains can't keep up with. If you get what I'm trying to say. Let me know your thoughts about AI, the TikTok ban, and if you've ever been in the GATE program. Remember to subscribe. Let's see if we can make my inner child happy. Gets to 100,000 subscribers. And remember, our like goal is 1,000 likes. Catch y'all in the next one.
Thank you all for